Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we're talking about BOOKTOK'S newest craze, the romantasy craze, an adult romantasy called Quicksilver by Callie Hart, which is on the Goodreads Choice Awards list for fantasy, popular fantasy books that might get chosen as like the winner for the year, and is also single-handedly responsible for making me lose what little brain cells I had left. This book is riddled with anachronisms, plot holes, cringe, such as the love interest's name being Kingfisher, and it somehow managed to make sentient metal magic not fun. What a feat. I love metal magic. I love when objects like swords are sentient, not just like able to be manipulated, but also are sentient, and this book has both those things, so I thought that this would be fun. I'm a big fan of Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett, which has a lot of sentient metal. Quicksilver's use of this magic and many things in comparison to Foundryside feels a lot like a cruel joke at the expense of my brain cells. I hate being disappointed by metal magic. You know what does a kind of metal magic and never disappoints me? Today's sponsor, Ridge, who have improved my life with their wallets and key cases. This is my wallet. It is attached to my phone metallically. I love. Look how cute she is. Their wallets are slim, customizable, made with premium materials, including RFID blocking materials to keep your personal information safe and secure. Ridge wallets easily fit into your front pockets, can hold up to 12 cards and still have room for cash with a cash strap or money clip. It's like magic. I like the cash strap personally. Carlos does the money clip. And the Ridge key case easily fits into your pockets to help ensure your keys are always on you without being a bulky distraction. Have you ever been stabbed in your own leg by your own keys? Well, that doesn't happen to me anymore with the Ridge key case. These things have been a gift to my life, so much so that I have actually made sure that every single member of my family now has one, and everybody that Carlos works with. I'm not joking. So if you're worried about gift giving this holiday season, Ridge is making it easier to share the magic. Whether you're treating yourself, someone in your family, a friend, or even just everybody that your husband works with, Ridge has deals going that will make it the perfect time to upgrade your everyday essentials. With a variety of products and colors to choose from, you're sure to find the right Ridge wallet or key case or even luggage for yourself or someone you care about. That luggage, by the way, is the best. Carlos and I have now traveled to 5 different states with it in tow. Join in on the magic of Ridge. Get up to 47% off the best holiday gifts by using my link down below or going to ridge.com/readswithrachel. Huge thank you to Ridge for sponsoring today. Okay, I'm gonna yell for probably 2 hours, I assume, so let's get into it. Ready for the synopsis? No, you're not. Do not touch the sword. Do not turn the key. Do not open the gate. This is not as important as the synopsis is making it sound at all. In the land of unforgiving desert, there isn't much a girl wouldn't do for a glass of water. Yeah, except she just magically gets a glass of whiskey very easily. 24-year-old Sarah Fain is good at keeping secrets. No one knows about the strange powers she possesses or the fact that she has been picking pockets and stealing from the Undying Queen's reservoirs for as long as she can remember, but a secret is like a knot. Sooner or later, it's bound to come undone. When Saris comes face to face with Death capital D himself, she inadvertently reopens a gateway between realms and is transported to a land of ice and snow. I thought this man was literally going to be like a death god. He's not. He's just a guy. I mean, he's a fae guy, but he's just a guy. The fae have always been the stuff of myth, of legend, of nightmares, but it turns out they're real. And Saris has landed herself right in the middle of a centuries-long conflict that might just get her killed. The first of her kind to tread the frozen mountains of Ivelia in over 1,000 years, Saris mistakenly binds herself to Kingfisher, a handsome fae warrior who has secrets and nefarious agendas of his own. He will use her alchemist magic to protect his people no matter what it costs him or her. Death has a name. It is Kingfisher of the Ajun Gate. His past is murky, his attitude stinks, and he's the only way Saris is gonna make it home. Be careful of the deals you make, dear child. The devil is in the details. I don't know why it says NB on the synopsis, but alright. NB Quicksilver contains depictions of graphic violence, adult situations, and is therefore recommended for readers 17+. I think you might have meant 18+. For a full list of tropes and trigger warnings, please visit the author's website. Dedication, for those who live their nightmares so that others may have their dreams. Then it has an epigraph that says, never forget, monsters thrive best in the dark. Commit all you read here to memory. Prepare for war. 2 exclamation points. Now, that just looked fucking silly to me. It gets explained why it's written like that in the book, and then the explanation was in fact silly. So, the defense rests. We then get a pronunciation guide that for some fucking reason puts periods after some of the words and then doesn't put them after others of the words. This was the first clue that this was not a quality product. The pronunciation guide has a bunch of words that, to be honest, I did not need to know how to pronounce. When you just break up the words without adding the punctuation to how you're supposed to say the word, like, is it omnamshakrai or is it omnashakrai? Like, you have to add the little symbols so that you know how to pronounce. Like, that's not a pronunciation guide. That's just breaking up the word into syllables. And then some of these words have like periods at the end and then some don't. And I have absolutely no idea why that wasn't taken out and edited, but okay. Chapter 1 is called The Climb. You know, there's really no need for all this violence. It was common knowledge in Zilvaran City that to lie to a guardian meant death. I knew this in a first-hand, painful way that most other Zilvarans did not. And my note just says, oh, goody, it's in first person. So we are getting our ass kicked. Our main character, Ceres, is getting her ass kicked by a guardian. Our setting is Zilvaran City, where there are 2 suns, no moon, so it's constantly desert and hot. She's getting her ass kicked by this guard, and he says, name, age, ward, spit it out. Low-tier citizens aren't permitted in the hub. Like most cities, Zilvaran, the great and shining banner of the north, were fashioned after the shape of a wheel. Around the city's outer limits, the different spokes, walls designed to keep people contained in their wards, towered 50 meters high above the shanty towns and overflowing sewers. Shanty is misspelled. Answer quick, girl, or I'll have you dispatched through the 5th gate of hell directly. I don't know what this means. In this context, it never gets explained if they have like a religious belief tied to hell. And different gates, I don't fucking know. So to be honest, everything that happens in the beginning is mostly irrelevant. And in fact, part of it just gets like erased because the motive of the evil queen just gets erased by the end of the book. It says she's scared of the Fae, and then by the end it's like, oh, I'm not scared anymore, we talked about it. Now we're all teaming up on you. What? It's actually more stupid than that. That's me being nice about it. During reckoning, when the suns Balia and Min were at their closest and the afternoon air shivered with heat, being trapped below ground in the prison, in the festering sore that passed as a prison, beneath the immortal queen's palace would not be fun. So she's trying to get metal to trade for water because there's no water here. Well, there is water, but to be honest, I'm not real clear on how much water there is, or if it's like there's like an abundance, but it's only given to the rich people. And I'm not really, I don't know. It's not explained. I don't know. And we're about to drink alcohol. How'd that happen? I don't know. So she tells this guardian who's kicking her ass that she is from the 3rd ward, and the 3rd ward is the part of the city, Zilvaran City, that is under quarantine. She doesn't give him her name, but says, this bastard would shit himself if he realized he had Ceres Fane in his grasp. And then I don't really remember this being a big deal when she actually goes before the queen. I don't remember her name being a big deal. So like, if the queen doesn't know who she is, then why would this guy? I don't fucking know. It seems like the beginning of this was just like slapped in here, and then we wrote the rest of the book, and then we forgot entirely what we did in the beginning. Residents of the 3rd ward where she's from are under quarantine because they are allegedly sick, and they get punished if they leave their ward. I noticed the small plague bag hanging from his belt and realized that he, like thousands of others in Zilvaran, was a believer, capital B. Now, this, I don't even remember being relevant to the rest of the book. Again, everything that happens at the beginning is completely irrelevant. We're not even staying in Zilvaran City. We are portaling to Fae World, and everything that we did at the beginning is completely moot. So she pretends to be sick, saying, even though she's just gotten into a fight with him, please, brother, don't send me back there. I'll die if you do. My whole family has the rattles. She calls him brother because of the religious stuff, right? What is the religious stuff? I don't fucking know. It didn't get explained. So he had choked her with his gauntlet, and because he touched her, now he's worried about it, so he takes it off and drops it. And she decides, okay, so I had stolen iron from the market, but that is way more precious metal. It brings up martial arts, which I'm pretty sure is an anachronism. The poor bastard was trussed up like a feast day turkey. Y'all have feast days? What are the turkeys drinking if there's no water? In all that ceremonial armor, he couldn't run weighed down with all that metal. So she steals it, she's running, she has to make it over a wall. She's like, oh, I'm gonna have to drop it. But This is more than just a piece of stolen armor. This is 3 years worth of food. It says like the gold comes alive and she just thinks nothing of this. She can hear it saying, she sees us, she feels us, she sees us, she feels us. And she just, I guess, just ignores this. Metal's talking to you and you're just ignoring it. Can't relate. If my bracelet started saying shit to me, I'm taking that shit off immediately and I'm telling my husband. What I'm not gonna do is be like, that's odd. These people never act human in these books, I swear to God. Although technically she's not human, but we'll get there. She takes it to this guy who she grew up with. He was like her mom's boyfriend, sort of. She doesn't live at his house because she doesn't want to draw the guardians there, even though how do the guardians go in there if they're all under quarantine? I don't understand. Her and her brother live in a loft over a tavern that is infested with cockroaches. But she goes to Elroy, her mom's former boyfriend's workshop, where he works with glass, but she's like, can you just like melt this down for me so that I can, you know, use it for money. Now, they're not supposed to have this metal. They could get in trouble. Also, the queen that rules over this city has been ruling over this city for 1,000 years and nobody knows how she does it, despite the fact that she is human. How do they know she's human? I don't fucking know. But they all say, how does she do it? She's human. She goes to, her mom's boyfriend is like, I don't want to melt this shit down. I'm going to get in so much trouble. She goes to try to find her brother, Hayden, and he is, of course, at a tavern called the House of Kala. Kala's, as it was known by most, was one of the only places in the world that would trade food and drink for goods instead of money. Cool. I love a barter system. I just don't understand how this place, also under quarantine, is getting anything. And again, are the goods limited? If it is true that they are getting stuff, they would have to get it from another ward, right? So if they were to interact with another ward, that would then prove that the people in 3 are not under quarantine for any reason because none of them are sick. So wouldn't rumors start that the people in quarantine under 3 are under quarantine for no good reason, and therefore wouldn't people start asking questions? But this is not discussed whatsoever. She finds her brother outside of this tavern, the House of Kala, and it says, Hayden dusted off his shirt and pants and adopted a wolfish grin that implied he discarded the ache in his ribs and felt brand spanking new. So I feel like brand new, if I remember the etymology of that word correctly, wouldn't that be like commercial brand? Or is that like branding a cow? Because if it's brand new as in commercial brand, that feels anachronistic. But let's discard that like he discarded the ache in his ribs. He discarded the ache in his ribs. Got it. Cool. So she goes inside to talk to the most notorious gambler, cheat, and smuggler in the entire city, Carrion Swift. What a name. What a name. He was also uncommonly good in bed, the only man in Zilvarin who'd ever made me scream his name out of pleasure rather than frustration. We then get information on both Kala and somebody who works for her, Kala, named Bryn, which is entirely useless and you will forget about it immediately after reading it. I certainly did. She goes to talk to Carrion. She's like, I specifically remember asking you not to deal with my brother anymore. You wouldn't mess with Hayden anymore and I wouldn't interfere with your supply lines to and from the hub. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need you to explain how you are running this. I need to know this underground system immediately. I need to know where are we getting the water from? Right? Where's the water coming from originally? How much of there is it? How much of is being hoarded if that's happening at all? Like, So Carrion's like, I want to talk to you, have a drink with me. So she sits down. Carrion set a glass of amber liquid down in front of me. The damn thing was almost full to the brim. That is not one drink. It's one glass, he countered. Therefore, it's one drink. How the fuck are they making whiskey when they are rationing water? Okay, if you have a bunch of stuff going missing, there would be people looking for it. Now, if you are having people in the hub or wherever else dealing you stuff where you're getting like, you get whiskey for X, what are they trading from the third if they are under quarantine? They have nothing. They're all poor. So what are they trading for? And further, again, if they are trading with people from the hub directly, that means that the ultra rich people therefore know that the people in the third are under quarantine for no reason. Wouldn't that raise questions? And if they are very low on water, the amount of water it takes to grow the grains that you need in order to make whiskey is extravagant. Like, how are we making whiskey and how is it getting traded when the people don't have anything, they're under quarantine? I heard something very interesting earlier. I heard that a raven-haired rebel from the third viciously attacked a guardian and stole a piece of his armor, a gauntlet. Can you believe that? So this guy's going to admit later that he could get people out of the third, and in that case, I'm not sure why he didn't get himself out. I'm so confused. They're saying she brought it back here to the ward. And he's like basically hinting like, did you put it somewhere safe? I hope you didn't just take it back to Elroy. He's like, you know what they'll do? If they think that we have something that belongs to them, Saris, there'll be a river of blood running through the streets by morning if this girl brought the armor here. He says it would only take an hour to move an item, so let's just get it done. Her brother has her bag. I don't know why. That had the gauntlet in it. And so when she goes outside to retrieve him and get the gauntlet, they're both gone. The bag's gone and so is her brother. Hayden refused to do what was asked of him, never paid attention, then typically went and did the one thing you begged him not to. So she's running around looking for her brother, passing faded posters papered the alleyways promising hefty rewards for any information leading to the capture of suspected magic users, which has a bunch of implications and obvious questions, but I'm just not going to ask them for the sake of time. She's talking about a smuggler named Rohana who literally never comes up again. Unlike the rest of third smugglers, Rohana only traded in food and water. Her illegal trade would still get her hands chopped off for her. Her illegal trade would still get her hands chopped off for her. Why is the for her at the end of that? You could have just said her hands chopped off. Okay, her illegal trade would still get her hands chopped off for her, but they wouldn't get her killed. What's editing? I don't know. So then it says, a piercing cry tore the arid air apart. It was distant, muted, but it came from the east and set my teeth on edge. How can a piercing cry be muted? How can if I hear something that's piercing, it feels like it's piercing my ears, right? If I hear it from downstairs and on the other side of the house where it's muted, not piercing my ears, right? Not happening, not hurting me. It's either piercing or it's muted. It cannot be both. I'm convinced that the beginning of this book was never edited. And she just somehow knows that this muted, somehow piercing cry, she just knows has something to do with her brother. If he had any sense whatsoever, he'd have seen the Guardians or overheard talk of Madra's guard flooding the third and, would have done something more sensible. And I'm like, well, I think you already established that your brother has no sense, which is very convenient. And of course, her brother is surrounded by guards when she comes upon him. Their mouths were covered in loose white Hessian cloth. Their eyes visible above their masks were narrowed, full of a burning hatred that every one of them leveled at my brother. So the only thing stopping them from getting sick is they're wearing loose white Hessian cloth. Sure thing. And she thinks about how unfair it is that these people are just luckier than her. Ill luck had rolled the dice against our grandparents, which is why we found ourselves quarantined in a plague ward, a filthy corner of the city that Madra hoped to starve to death or else allow sickness to bite chunks out of until we had the common courtesy to die. Now, what is stopping Madra from just wiping them out on, pretense? Seemingly nothing. There's nothing standing in her way. What are the stakes? Nothing. At least nothing's presented. So he has the gauntlet. The guards have him. She's like, no, it was me. I was the one who took the gauntlet, not him. She draws a weapon, and now that she's drawn a weapon on the undying queen's guard, that's a death sentence. And of course, instead of just being normal, she tries to get her brother to run by being mean to him. Just do as you're told for once in your life. Just fucking go. I don't need your help. I don't want you following after me, blubbering like a little brat who needs his hand held all the time. I didn't realize it was such a burden. Well, you are, Hayden. Your entire fucking life, that's all you've been. Now leave me alone. Don't follow. Don't come looking for me. Go. So she gets arrested. This, by the way, never comes up again. She never feels guilt for the last words that she said to her brother. She never tries to get a message to her brother. She has an opportunity to get her brother back, which then fails. And she doesn't think, I need to get him back just so I can say I'm sorry and that he's not a burden and that I love him. But she just never thinks about this again because it's not important. Again, the beginning of this book is completely irrelevant to the rest of it. I'd plotted different ways to secure myself an audience with the Eternal Virgin, Our Lady of Zilvarin, most revered queen on high. Basically, she'd tried to, find ways to meet her when she was younger and thought so highly of her. And then as she got older and her circumstances became more known to her, she realized that she hated the queen and then she wanted to get an audience with her to kill her. So a guard comes to get her and he's like, you're lucky. You get an audience with the queen. She takes so few audiences these days. You say we're affected with a sickness, that we're contagious, but we aren't, Captain. We're being slowly and methodically poisoned because we don't matter, because we ask questions, because we say no, because Madra sees us as a burden on the city. She feeds us foul, dirty water, and we die in droves because of it. Meanwhile, you and yours turn the handle and fresh, clean water flows into your canisters. No one's standing over you, looking over your shoulder, beating you and telling you enough. Have you ever asked yourself why? I'm not paid to ask anything. So it would make sense if one of the other wards were like, you cannot take out the entire third without us, rising up, right? Is that the case? I don't know. I don't know what's stopping Madra from just taking out these people. I have no idea. It isn't disease that's contagious in my ward, Captain. It's dissent. Anarchy and rebellion spread like a wildfire. And what do you do with a fire? You blockade it, trap it behind a wall, give it nowhere else to go until it burns itself out and dies a quiet death. That's what Madra's doing with my people, except our fire hasn't burned out the way she hoped it would. We've been reduced to embers, yes, but the coals that lie beneath the ash of my ward are still hot enough to burn. Do you know about metalwork, Captain? I do. It's under the most unbearable conditions that the sharpest, most dangerous weapons are forged. So, because she drew a blade on the Queen's guard, she is shown to be able to be capable of fighting. And so the Queen is like, who taught you to fight? When she, meets her. And she says, well, nobody trained me. Liar, says the Queen. It was the Fae, wasn't it? She hissed. They found a way through. They've come for me at last. This is completely erased by the end. This is completely erased, right? And so you hear this and you think, when you're logical, you're like, okay, so only the Fae can train you to use a fucking sword? No, I don't think so. And second of all, if you have a queen that has been alive for 1,000 years and she says, the Fae are coming for me, you put those pieces together if you're a normal person and you say, oh, there's something magical going on here, isn't there? It sounded like, for the life of me, that she just said, the Fae. I don't know what you mean. Was she talking about lost lands that existed a millennia ago, swallowed by the deserts? What else did she believe in? Ghosts and the forgotten gods? None of it was real. Wait, so are there real gods that are believed in? Because wasn't that guard a believer? What's that again? What is that? What's the religion again? So lost lands that existed a millennia ago, that was real. It's not that it's never been real. It's that it doesn't exist anymore. Again, if you're being logical, you could say, okay, so do the Fae still exist, such as the lost lands that existed a millennia ago? Did they survive? But instead she's just like, no, those are unreal things like ghosts. Oh boy. The Fae were warmongers, cannibals, beastly creatures with no temperance, sense of morality, nor any notion of mercy. The eldest immortals visited their wrath upon the land with an iron fist, leaving a path of chaos and destruction in their wake. The 7 cities rejoiced when I cast them out, and now they have sent you to try to kill me, says the Queen. They want this land, I assume. Tell me what they will do if I don't return these arid, worthless, barren sand dunes to them. And stop lying! Just answer the question. The Fae wish to come and take these lands from me. What do you think they will do in order to seize my throne from me? And I'm like, oh, so we're just delivering the answers directly to our main character then. She just got all the answers. Oh, okay. So 1,000 years ago, before any of us were here, this land belonged to the Fae, and now they want it back. That's what's going on here. That's why Madra is so old. Instead, she's just like, what do you mean? Oh, God. So the Queen's like, what are they going to do to me? Ceres is like, kill you? And how do they plan on doing that? It strikes me that the Fae haven't really thought about how they might destroy an immortal, Ceres. It seems the Fae are foolhardy and are ill-prepared to deal with the likes of me. Aren't there immortal Fae, though? Wouldn't they just do the same thing they do to the other immortals? I'm so confused. She admits that she does nothing but drink wine and slaughters peasants for fun. She's like, you know what? Never mind. For a second there, you had me worried and wondering. So she says to her guard, I should know better than to indulge the riffraff, Heron. You deal with her. When you're done, head back to where you found her and root out the rest of her people. And I'm like, wait, so didn't you say earlier that your name, Ceres, was known? And if so, why didn't they just root out the rest of your people sooner? Basic questions. I'm just asking basic questions here. You are a rat, she said. Rats are an eternal bane upon a city. You can kill one, but it will already be too late. It will have spurned 10 more? Do you mean spawned? Is that how you use spurned? It will have spurned 10 more before it's found its way to you. 10 more grotesque fat rats gnawing away on grain that does not belong to them, tainting water it has no right to drink. The only way to deal with a rat's nest is to hunt it down and smoke out its occupants, even if there are no Fae in the Silver City. Somebody trained you. Somebody showed you how to hunt and kill my men. Do you think we'd leave a form of rebellion that insidious to fester? Oh no! I'll make a column of greasy smoke out of those who matter to you, and then when they're gone, I will tear the 3rd ward to the ground. So in the next chapter, she gets stabbed. She gets kind of like tortured by this guy, Heron, the guard, and then stabbed through the chest, and it says she's skewered to a stone. She's coughing up blood, and then suddenly, as he's about to stab her one last time, the metal stops. How are you doing that? That is impossible. As if I had a third invisible hand, I reached toward the dagger and I wrapped my will around it. The weapon trebled, its tip quivered. Just the tip, just the tip of the metal, just right on the edge of the knife. It's just wiggling. The metal in his knife sword melts and it starts to climb up him. Don't let it take me, please. And then she, wherever he took her, sees a sword stabbed into the ground. Now, this sword is kind of important. You'll remember from the synopsis that it says, you know, don't move the sword. This is the sword you don't move. Why didn't the queen, like, you know, make sure that there was something, like, to make sure that this, like, sword stayed untouched? I don't fucking know. Sarah's, no, do not touch that sword. Do not turn the key. Do not open the gate. You have no idea the hell you will unleash upon this place. The sword was old. I felt its age in the air somehow, a prickle of energy that spoke of hidden ancient places. Do not touch that sword, he repeated. I somehow knew that it hadn't been touched by another living creature in centuries. I hissed in surprise when I lifted upward and the thing cut through the ties at my wrist like a hot knife through butter. I'm surprised you know what butter is. I'm surprised they have any butter. I'm surprised you have dairy at all. Dairy takes an immense amount of water to produce. And of course, she turns to the guy and she says, this is the part where you scream, Captain. This is the part where you are supposed to scream. So then there is a pool of quicksilver. Ha, there's the title. And emerging from the silver, after she has pulled this sword out and, you know, opened the gate, a huge figure rises up from the pool as if ascending from the very depths of hell itself. Broad shoulders, wet, shoulder-length black hair, tall, taller than any man I'd ever seen. Oh, I found our love interest. He's always the tallest one. He towered over me, his lips pulled back in a snarl, revealing gleaming white teeth and sharp canines. I got those too. I'm Faye now. And so he says to the guard, this man who rose out of the Quicksilver, where's Madra? And Heron, the guard, just keeps talking about obsidian, and I honestly don't know what the fuck he was talking about. I don't even remember the relevance of this. I don't think it has any. Then we just move on. That guy, you know, allegedly dies, but he comes back later. And talking about the love interest, guy on the cover, right? It says, he was the most savagely beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Actually, you know what? Now that we're here, let's talk about this cover. This cover has been claimed to be AI generated by people who look at it. It is not AI generated. I did check, and the author has her entire process. She made this cover herself. And I'm really happy that authors are making their own covers. I will say that as a consumer, I would not pay for this, and I'll tell you why. A few things on this look really bad up close. So the like hands look wackadoodle. It's like meshing into the sword in the back. Corner over there looks wonky. And then his shoulders look like this. And I'm like, what are you doing, guy? What's this? Like, the hands clearly are not the same body as the face. And it just looks like he's going like this. And I don't know why we did that. So I also don't like the color scheme. I understand the relevance of the butterflies now, but I still don't think they look good. And I understand the relevance of the quicksilver dripping from the eye, but I also don't think that looks good either. This is not a cover that I would pay for. So while it's not AI generated, and I'm really happy about that, I also don't think it's very good looking. Okay. Tangent over. He gives her this chain that's wrapped around his neck. He gives it to her and he says, if you die before you can give this back, I'm not going to be happy. My silent scream died on my lips as death carried me into the pool. So they go into the Quicksilver pool and let's see what happens next. Nothing fun. Once when I was 8, it rained in the Silver City. The heavens cracked open and a deluge of water fell from the sky for a whole day. The streets flooded and buildings that had stood for generations washed away. No one had ever seen such a blanket of clouds blotting out the suns, and for the first and only time in my life, I had known what it was to be cold. I wasn't cold now. I was cold once. I'm not cold now. I was cold once because it rained. I'm not cold now. That's great. This was something else entirely, and it was unbearable. My bones were made of ice. They promised to shatter if I dared to move, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop shivering. Locked in darkness, I could see nothing at all. There were sounds in this icy prison, though. Voices, sometimes many, sometimes just one. I began to recognize them as time passed. I heard the female voice the most. She spoke to me, talking softly, telling me secrets. She sang to me as well. Her voice was soft and sweet. It made me miss my mother in a way that caused me to ache inside. Wow, that is certainly words. In order to make the whole I was cold once thing relevant, you would need to say, I was cold once and I thought it felt like what death would feel like. We had always been told that death would be our sweet release, similar to that day when the heavens opened. And instead you're just like, I was cold once, but I'm not cold now. That's great, sweetie. The bed I was lying in didn't belong to me. The only feather mattress I'd ever slept on in my whole life was Carrie and Swift's, and this bed didn't belong to that asshole either. Obviously. So she wakes up, there's a beautiful woman there, and it says she gives her a receptacle filled to the brim with water, 4 days worth. I'd spend a month trying to get out from underneath the debt this amount of water would put me down in the third. And she was just handing it to me. I'm Everlane. I've been visiting you, she said. She sees this person's ears and she's like, this is a fae. The fae were warmongers, cannibals, beastly creatures with no temperance. I thought they weren't real. Isn't that what we said earlier? That they were like ghosts? They weren't real? Everything's made up and the points don't matter. The eldest immortals visited their wrath upon the land with an iron fist, leaving a path of chaos and destruction in their wake. The 7 cities rejoiced when death had come for me. With wavy black hair and wicked green eyes, he'd carried me away from that place. He had brought me here. A wave of heat swept over me, making my mouth sweat. Making my mouth sweat. Making my mouth sweat. Yes, because we all know that mouths sweat. Certainly. I'm sorry, but you're fae? I am. But you're not real. I beg to differ. Obviously, myths, stories, the fae are folklore. There's no such thing as the fae. There's no such thing as the fae anymore. That's different. You are seeing something that you previously thought were all gone. So for instance, if I saw, what's an animal that went extinct? If I saw a dodo bird, those aren't real. They're a myth. They're not a myth. They are extinct. They are no longer available. There's a difference. The fae visited the shores of our land, bringing with them war, disease, and death. Excuse me, Everlane says, but the fae are not diseased. We haven't been afflicted by blight of any kind in a millennium. Humans, on the other hand, are riddled with all sorts of germs. You all fall sick and die at the drop of a hat. You're telling me that the fae have become a bedtime story meant to scare children in Zilvarin? Yes, our main character says. She's like, listen, I grabbed hold of a sword, then the floor turned to molten silver, a big pool of it, and then something came out of it. Something or someone, Everlane says. A man, Sarah says, but Everlane shook her head. A male. Oh, yay! Oh, good! Because they're not human, they're fae, so they don't play by our ideas of gender. They only go by sex. I forgot. This is a thing I hate, but if you're going to do it, you better stick to it. You better stick to your own rule that you decided to play by. And this book does not. This book, that same character that just said he's not a man, he's a male, is about to use the word fae next to the word woman. Fae woman, not fae female, fae woman. Because this book did not get edited. This book didn't get much thought about, to be honest. So the fae have been healing her because obviously she had, internal organ issues from being stabbed, skewered, in fact. So I take it we're not in the Silver City then. Afraid not, Toto. You're in Ivelia. More specifically, the Winter Palace. Didn't your mother's bedtime stories tell you anything? Then the door crashes open and a man named Renfus, a male named Renfus runs in. Renfus, what in all 5 hells? You nearly gave me a heart attack. The male, Renfus, glanced briefly in my direction, eyes shifting over before returning his attention to Everlane. I came to find the human. He needs his chain back. Remember that chain she was wearing? Yeah. Old hot guy who's on the cover needs his chain back. He's hiding that man from the guards, apparently. They're not going to invite her in on this conversation whatsoever, give her any context for absolutely no reason. He's needed back in Kalish anyway. Write to him if you have to. Visit him in a month or two. But having him stay here a moment longer than necessary would be ill-advised. So Everlane turns back to Saracen's like, I bet you want a bath. And she's like, I can't take a bath right now. I need to go home. My brother needs me. I'm sorry, Saris, but that isn't going to happen. Some of the tales your mother used to tell you were true. My people are cruel and ruthless. There are those of us who endeavor to be different. Sometimes there's no other option. And also, we needed that sword. We needed to retrieve it. That sword you drew up out of the ground for a very long time. You have no idea how important you are, Saris. I'm afraid my father isn't liable to give you up anytime soon. He wants to see you in an hour, so unfortunately the bath isn't up for debate. You can't keep me trapped here. This is a kidnapping. It's inhumane behavior. Well, we're not human, Saris. We're fae, remember? And Everlane says, well, he's the king. My father is the king Belicon de Barra, king of the Avelian Fae. So she tries to dress up Saris, of course, in a dress, and Ceres is like, I don't do dresses. I wear pants. Things I can easily move in so I can run and climb and kill people. Well, you're not wearing a shirt and pants to meet the king. He'll see it as a slight. If you're not well turned out, he'll have you thrown into the cells. And she's like, at least you have long hair, because long hair is a sign of highborn status for fae women. Did you see that? It doesn't say fae females. It says fae women. Fae women. But remember, he's not a man. He's a male. So what happened? Come on! This book isn't even keeping its own fae lore straight, because literally it was the last scene that she said he's not a man, he's a male. But okay. She explains a little bit about fae religious beliefs. They have gods, and the bunch of gods is called the Corcoran. And then she explains that they do know about Madra. Your queen is human, and even though the sand and the wind swept away the names of the gods, I assure you Madra knows them. That she's chosen to let them vanish from her people's history speaks volumes of her corruption. And there's similarities between the certain goddesses and the names of the sons in Zilvarin, which I don't know. There's Styx, god of shadows, of course there is, and then there's Zareth, god of chaos and change. To look upon Zareth's face is to draw his focus, and nobody wants to do that. So I like this idea, but then Zareth doesn't show up until the end of this book, so that's great! We pray to each member of the Corcoran that they'll return to Evelia someday, but in secret, a lot of us pray that Zareth gets a little lost on his journey home. So the gods left this plane. I don't know why. On we went, passing too many rooms, many open doorways to count, bedrooms and studies, rooms full of maps, rooms full of books, rooms with benches, and glass vials of bubbling liquids suspended over fires. I should have been terrified of these strange new sights, but my curiosity won out over my fear. Strange new sights? You said it's books and benches. Yeah. How strange. A bench. My God, is that a book? Oh! Everlane talks about magic, and she's like, oh, magic? Well, yeah, I guess if Everlane exists, then so can magic. Bitch, if you recall, metal talks to you. So she meets the king, and he's not a nice guy. Of course he's not. She's like, hey, I need to go back to Zilvarin. My brother, and he's like, he's probably already dead. The bitch queen put an end to your home and all who resided in it. You don't know that. She declared that she would. At least that is what I was told. We know your queen, a power-hungry despot with a black and shriveled heart. They are literally going to team up at the end of this, and there is no, like, we're teaming up because, we put everything behind it. They're just like, well, originally I really wanted my sword back, but now, we're just pals. I don't understand. You're charged with awakening the Quicksilver and reopening the pathways between this world and others. Your cooperation in that task will dictate how you spend your time in Evelia. Rail against your purpose, and life within these palace will be the walls of this palace will become infinitely more uncomfortable for you. I have spoken. And then he's like, I'm done with her. Bring in the dog. A man walks in and it says, it was death, capital D. I don't know why she thinks of this dude. He's just some dude who looks like he auditioned for One Direction and didn't make it. But for some reason, she's like, that is death itself. And people are talking, calling him Living Curse, Bane of Gillithry, Black Knight, the Scourge of Evelia, the male that stalks your children's nightmares, the male who torched city on a whim, the male who cut your throat as soon as look at you. So Everlane's like, oh shit, she's gonna kill Death. He still hasn't been given a name. But I'll spoil it for you now. I think I already said it earlier. It's Kingfisher, like the bird. Perfect. So Birdman is acting kind of rambunctious, to put it lightly. He's being accused of all these things. Belicon's like, yeah, we hate this guy. We hate this motherfucker. We want him dead. And Everlane is like, no. So she turns to this old woman named Malway. And she's like, Malway, if you loved my mother at all, do something to save him. And Malway's like, you can't kill him, Belicon. You have to let Kingfisher live. The gods must be obeyed, lest House Debara and the Winter Palace fall. And so Renfis, the guy from earlier, shows up and he's like, send his ass back to the front. Make him fight. Make him finish what he started. 7 feet tall and heavily tattooed, Renfis emerged. 7 feet tall. Perfect. You're supposed to be at the front. Didn't I charge you with winning my war? My war, he says, even though later he has literally nothing to do with it. Bonkers. And here you are, entering my palace, and armed to the teeth, no less. I have to say this is very confusing. He's like, the war's not going well. He started the war. Send him back to the front with me. If things are as bad as you say, Belicon says, he'll be killed in a matter of days. Likely, yes, Majesty, but with all due respect, wouldn't that likelihood save you the trouble of a trial for what occurred at Gillithry? Now that you mention it, yes, perhaps you're right, Renfis. Maybe a return to the front would be a just punishment. Why shouldn't he aid the war effort? So instead of getting treated like a prisoner, he literally gets to sit around at this palace for like a week. with no guards on him. I don't get this at all. You can take him back with you in a week. Why in a week? Why not right now? No fucking clue. Since he knows so much about the Quicksilver, he'll stay here and help Rusarius deal with the girl first. The second she's capable of waking the pool by herself, Kingfisher will be once again banished from this court. Now, why they couldn't just have him write down everything he knows and then send him the fuck off, or just have Rusarius the librarian do it, I don't fucking know. I don't know why they just let this guy they think of as a criminal run around the palace for a whole ass week. This doesn't make any sense to me. So they're just set free to run around the palace and be fed and clothed and whatever the fuck they need. So the three of them, Saris, our main character, Everlane, Renfis, go with Kingfisher out of the hall, out of the king room. Everlane and Renfis are arguing amongst each other, and of course, Kingfisher decides to cut in with his deep voice. Stop bickering. Kingfisher's voice was rough and pain, but it was also electricity. It made every hair on my body stand to attention. Y'all got electricity? That's interesting. I'm surprised you know about it. His jaw was defined, marked with dark stubble, his cheekbones high, his nose arrow straight and proud. There was a dark freckle just below his right eye. And those eyes, God's eyes were not that color. I'd never seen that shade of green before, a jade so bright and vibrant that it didn't look real. I noticed the filaments of silver threaded through his right iris back in Madra's Hall of Mirrors, but I'd assumed I'd imagined them. Yeah, he has Quicksilver in his eyeball. That's why on the cover it's leaking. Everlane yells at Kingfisher because he shouldn't have gone in the pool to go get the sword, and I'm not really sure why she doesn't want him to go in the pool and get the sword, but okay. Chastise me tomorrow, please. Right now I need two things. Whiskey and a bed. And Saris is like, I'm sick of being dragged around like I'm on a leash. You're not safe here, Saris. You're right. It doesn't sound like I am. Don't you think you should have told me your people were at war? Oh, I didn't mention that? No! Oh, well, we've been at war with Sanisroth for longer than I've been alive. It must have slipped my mind. Wait, I thought Kingfisher started the war. How did he start the war if it's been going on? I'm confused. There is one thing I can tell you right now. Even in times of peace, the Fae are always at war. There are those amongst our ranks that might pretend to be your friend, but often they're hiding knives behind their smiles. They're hiding knives behind their smiles. In their teeth? Perfect. Ready to sink them into your back. You do well to remember that. As I followed after her, rushing to keep up, I couldn't help but wonder if she counted herself among that number. Wow, heavy-handed. Thank you so much. She's amazed at the existence of both nighttime and snow, because those aren't, things in her world. This is the Winter Palace. It snows year-round here, at least once a day. So they go to the library because she needs to learn everything about the Quicksilver pools. And she's like, oh, my mom used to work in a shitty library in the 3rd where we had crumbly-ass books. But then later it says that her mom was a sex worker and the librarian stuff never comes up again. The information on her mom is so wonky. Anyways, so the librarian in this Winter Palace is like, oh, so she's an alchemist. She must have a drop of Fae blood, enough to stop Solus from burning off in her hands. Solus is the sword that she, pulled out of the ground like Arthur. So they're like, we're going to have to teach you through history books. But Madras used Solus to seal the pathways between worlds a long time ago. But with the sword returned to us and an alchemist in our midst, she must know she'll have a war on her doorstep any day now. Except she won't, because they're just going to decide, actually, we like each other. And we all hate Kingfisher. I don't know. I don't get it. And then they have this conversation about how many soldiers does Madra have? It doesn't matter, because Madra's not the enemy. They're not going to war with Madra. It doesn't matter. She's like, is my brother going to be conscripted? No, he's not, because your friend Carrion got him out of the 3rd, which why he couldn't have got him out of the 3rd sooner, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have answers for any of these basic questions. If Madra was worried about the Fae showing up, why wasn't she conscripting these people in the 3rd in particular beforehand? If you conscript, then you could better your circumstances, is what she could have said to them. Why wasn't she taking every possible precaution to prevent the Fae from showing back up? And if they did show back up, have contingency plans? I don't get this. So they ask her, have you ever channeled a metal's energy before? And she says, the spinning blade on my mother's dining table, the guardian's gauntlet, when I'd slammed it down on top of the wall, how its vibration had made the grain quartz of silver in the sand dance, how I turned Heron's dagger into a river of molten silver and steel. And they're like, do you have any experience working around a forge? And she laughs and she's like, I have some, because she worked in a glass blowing. Yeah, anyway. Whenever they pass by the gods, by the way, Kingfisher is such a badass, he gives them the middle finger. Oh my God, he's such a bad boy. She hates that they're babying her and not giving her more information, because I was an accomplished fighter. I knew how to put a guardian on his ass in 3 seconds flat. Wrong. You don't know how to do that because in the beginning of the book, you were getting your ass kicked. So I could scale 40 foot high walls and sprint across rotting rooftops. And she's like, I could do all this, but the sight of Kingfisher prowling toward me made me so nervous. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. He's death itself. So he starts calling her O'Shellith. He says it as if it's mean, and it means like a fragile little butterfly because an O'Shellith is the butterfly on the cover. So he starts calling her that. And I just want to read this line to you that is so bonkers. All right, O'Shellith, Lane isn't going to let this go until you've been given the Cliff Notes. The Cliff Notes! Ah! The Cliff Notes. No, right. Because Clifton, whatever his fucking name was, definitely existed in this world and wrote the Cliff Notes books in this Fey world. Surely he portaled in the 1950s through the Quicksilver into this Fey world and wrote Cliff Notes. You're right. I forgot. I'm about to furnish you with the only information you really need to know. Furnish you? Is furnish the right word there? You have the distinct pleasure of being the only living human in all of Evelia. You are not safe here. There was a time when this place teemed with your kind. Our ancestors were cursed a millennia ago. As a result, we ended up with these. He's talking about his canines. We used them to drink your kind dry. We drained you by the million before the blood curse was lifted. This was long before our time, of course, but the Fey line still bears the marks of the past. We might not need blood to maintain our immortality anymore, but by the gods, do we still have the teeth for it? Our dirty little secret. Him and Everlane get in a fight, and she's like, you're my brother, and sometimes I wish you weren't my brother. Careful, little sister. We don't want to spill all of our secrets in one go now. Oh, fuck you, Fisher. They call him Fisher for short. It's great. She's like, why are you calling me O'Shellith? An O'Shellith is a type of butterfly, OSHA for short. They hatch, live, and die all in one day. The cold kills them very fast. Isn't that right, Renfis? Of course, him and Saris get in a verbal altercation where he's like, everything about me is magic. What about you is magic? Everything. My looks, my sword skills, my personality. Your personality is trash. He explains her stuff about the Quicksilver. He's mean to her for no reason. And then like halfway through the book, he decides, actually, I'm going to be super nice to you. It's, stupid. Kingfisher is explaining Quicksilver to her. Quicksilver pools are pathways that connect different realms. The Quicksilver itself is volatile. Some of our elders believe it possesses a low level of sentience. Whether this is true or not, it doesn't matter. This stuff is dangerous. If it comes in contact with the skin, it's bad. Like what happened with that guard that was at Queen, whatever the hell her name's palace, it like took over his skin. It was, tearing him apart. On the inside, I don't remember. It was malevolent. An alchemist used to forge Quicksilver into weaponry for Fey warriors. And there was Quicksilver inside of that guard's blade, and that's why she was able to dismantle it and turn it into a liquid weapon to kill that guard with. And when he was a kid, he was called, not when he was a kid. When he came of age, he was called to join Belicon's army. Belicon is his stepdad, by the way. I was called to travel between Evelia and the other realms because my pendant, the one that he gave her earlier, was one of the most powerful. To cut a very long and boring story short, I was forced to travel a pathway without the pendant once. And of course, so that means the Quicksilver touched him without his pendant on, and the Quicksilver started doing what it did to that guard Heron earlier. A healer managed to draw most of the Quicksilver out of me once I made it back to the Winter Palace, but I was left with a few lasting reminders, as in the Quicksilver inside of his eyeball. Most Fae only wore their relics when they traveled from one realm to the next, but wearing mine is the only thing that calms the noise in my head. Without it, the line between what's real and what isn't blurs very quickly. So this causes him, if he's not wearing his pendant, to lose his marbles. So the reason he gave her the pendant was because he wanted her to be able to travel through the Quicksilver without turning into what he turned into, which is a guy with Quicksilver in his eyeball that makes him hear things, see things, have nightmares, I guess. Why didn't you just let me die? You could have left me there. You haven't been paying attention, human. Evelia's at war, and war machines are hungry beasts. They require constant feeding. Food, clothes, gold, building supplies, weaponry. When Madra drove that sword into her pool, stilling every pool in the realm, Belicon used the pathways for supplies. It was the only way to trade in many magical items. When the pathways closed, the door to our supply trains slammed closed too. You shouldn't have been able to touch that sword, let alone draw it, and the silver responded to you. You activated it. You did what only an alchemist to do. So no, I couldn't just leave you there to die. By the way, he has shadow magic. Oh my god, I'm shocked. Oh, if you would have asked me, hey, this guy that gets described as every other love interest, what kind of magic does he have? I would have said shadow magic, without a doubt. I would have bet my kid's life on it. And sure enough, I would have been right. How is he distinguishable from Rhysand and Xaden Ryerson? He's not. Oh, right, he has Quicksilver in his eye. Don't forget. Everlane and Renfis, the other two, keep hinting that something happened to Kingfisher, and all we get without them explicitly saying it is that he was gone for over 100 years. They don't know where he was or what was happening to him, but it must have been terrible because it turned him into such an asshole. There was so much hurt between them, so much time and history, and so many secrets. From the outside looking in, it was impossible to unravel all the threads that connected them. Okay, it's fine. So learning more about alchemy, it turned out, was a form of magic. No shit. Is that why you are able to make entire swords fall apart and then move them and also hear them in your mind? Crazy. Forgotten long dead old magic that was as much a myth to the Fae of Ivelia as they were to the people of Zilvarin. There had once been 3 branches of alchemists: Fae who sought to discover the path to immortality, Fae who sought to create and invent by transmuting various metals and ores, and lastly, Fae who sought to cure illness and disease. They found a way to transform elements into vast amounts of gold and silver, which was reportedly used to fill the royal coffers. Quicksilver was discovered along with the other realms, its pathways connected, and all manner of chaos ensued afterwards. That's a wonky sentence. Alchemists lived very short lives. They often went mad and killed themselves. Oh, well, that's just great. Whatever the alchemists of old had done to earn themselves that faith, I wanted to know so I could do the exact opposite. Great. But damn it, burying my head in the sand wouldn't help me activate the Quicksilver again, and I had to work out how to do that if I wanted to know what had happened to Hayden. Or if he was trapped as a new recruit of Madra's army, then I needed to get him out of there and save him. She finally starts asking basic questions, like how she's able to understand them talking. Right now, you're speaking Common Fae. And the book was written in Common Fae too. There are other languages in Avelia, but other dialects, but Common Fae is spoken by all the courts as a shared, common tongue. When the Fae first traveled to your realm, the humans there spoke a different language altogether. Then she starts asking about Madra. She was young when she ascended the Zilvarin throne, bloodthirsty and hungry for power. But how could she be so old if she's human? How has she managed to reign for... Reign? Reign spelled wrong. Reign, R-E-I-N. How has she managed to reign like a horse? It's R-E-I-G-N. How has she managed to reign for over 1,000 years? And how could she have closed all the pathways with that sword if she wasn't an alchemist? I have no idea. It might be some sort of magic, but we have no clue who performed it for her or why. She gets into a fight with Kingfisher verbally because, of course, this is enemies to lovers. Even though we're lazy about it. And they're not actually enemies, he's just sarcastic. She has questions about him and he's like, if you want, you can just ask. If I'd ask you something, you wouldn't have answered me. And if you had, it wouldn't have been the truth. Elroy swears that a man will lie about the size of his every time a woman asks him, are you asking me how big my is, Osha? I don't care how big it is. I care about the way you answer. It's big enough to make you scream and then some. Ugh. Boring. Boo! You're lazy. Ask a man how big his is and he'll show you that he's full of shit. Maybe. But I'm not a man. I'm a Fae male. Oh, that's weird because earlier we said Fae women. I'm just confused. So she asked him about his previous antics that people are mad at him about. Remember the court being like, he's a murderer. You were banished from the Avelian court because you did something bad. You did something bad. They say I did something bad, and why does it feel so good? Like, it's so putting it so lightly. Belicon said you razed an entire city to the ground because I didn't have a choice. No matter what reason I give you, it won't be good enough. Now ask me something else. Renfis says you've been suffering for the past century years. Renfis said you've been suffering for the past century years. Century years. You know, that's a normal thing to say. Certainly not an unedited sentence. Because you were banished after you destroyed that city. Where did they send you? Canines bared. He leaned in so close that barely an inch separated the tips of our noses, and he snarled, hell. He puts Quicksilver in her hand, and she's like, it's hurting me. He's like, okay, what kind of hurt? And he won't let it go. Cold, it's burning, it's so cold. Make it stop. You make it stop. Listen to it. What's it saying? There was a voice, a million voices. Anarath more, they said. I still don't know what that means. So long as I'm touching you, you're safe. I'm wearing the pendant. It won't harm us. And so he tells her, okay, make it go to sleep. I have to say, I was expecting that to go differently. And then she punches him in the mouth. It's explained by Everlane that they are siblings, but his dad is not Belicon. His dad went and died in the war. at the behest of Belicon. And then Fisher's mom ended up married to Belicon. And I'm like, wait, is this supposed to be like a retelling of David and Bathsheba? Because if so, I'm mad about it because I had an idea for a David and Bathsheba retelling that is much better than this. Am I going to write it? No. I'm probably never going to write it. I don't want to sit down and do that. I genuinely fucking hate typing. But if we're gonna do it, it better be good because I love that idea. You know how much you could do with David and Bathsheba? You know how much rage you could make out of a Bathsheba where you take the idea of Bathsheba and you make it so that she doesn't just get erased from the actual narrative of the story, but she gets to be like angry at what happened to her. You bet I'm interested in that. Instead, nothing like that happens here, which is stupid. In fact, Fisher's father, Finran, got declared a traitor and was accused of the Quicksilver stilling. Like, he caused the Quicksilver to stop allowing them to portal. Wait, Kingfisher said that Madra was responsible for stilling the Quicksilver. And that might be true. Fisher has certainly never believed that his father was responsible, but without any proof to the contrary, Belicon announced that Finran was to blame. Less than a year later, Belicon announced his engagement to my mother. Wait, so why would they blame Finran but then also still be mad at Madra? And Madra was afraid they would come after her. I'm confused. And Belicon hates Fisher because he was under the impression that Fisher had used his mother up. Fae children are a rare gift. Most couples are lucky if they even have one child. Oh, so this is similar to ACOTAR. Unless that's just normal Fae lore. I don't know. What am I, a folklorist? According to the king, everything's always Fisher's fault, but our mother's death wasn't because of him. It was because of me, Everlane says. Ceres is like, women have died in childbirth since the dawn of time. Human or Fae, it makes no difference. This is the part where it would be normal for her to say, Fae females are not women, but instead we just ignore that because we're not keeping with our own lore. Why would we do that? Continuity? Where? So Fisher is really annoying and decides to eat in her room to annoy her because he's annoying, which is supposed to be like hot. He brings her cheese and she sees his wickedly sharp canines. The sight of them sent a thrill of panic-tinged intrigue through me. Heat rose up from the pit of my stomach. Careful, human. We Fae have an excellent sense of smell. You'd be amazed what we can scent floating on the air. I wasn't doing anything. I didn't. Oh gods, I was gonna die of embarrassment. He can smell that she's aroused. He can smell it. It's great. I was not attracted to him. I was not thinking about his tongue or teeth. Sure, babes. So then Everlane comes in and she's like, ew, Fisher, why does it smell like a brothel in here? If you're going to spend the night out whoring and drinking, the least you could do is wash the smell of sex off you before showing up for breakfast. All she's smelling is literally this human being aroused. That's it. Apparently it's potent, which is good for her. So he wants her to wake up the Quicksilver so that she can try to bind things to it and see if she can make relics out of it. I think the relics are the thing that allow them to travel through the Quicksilver, if I'm understanding correctly. I don't know. It's all a little bit convoluted. You're using bone to see if fusing the Quicksilver with a biological material will trick the pool into thinking a living creature will pass through it. It is a part of thinking the living creature passing through it is a part of it. Got it. So they are in a forge and she's, trying to forge things and do Quicksilver shit. She's trying to learn. She's trying to do alchemist shit, but she doesn't know what she's doing and he's the only one with information. And he's just allowed to prowl this castle unguarded, even though he's hated by everybody, especially his stepdad, who just lies about him and his own dad, but sure. And in this forge, which rarely gets used, a fox has made its nest, and I am angry because foxes are my favorite animal companions, and this book threw one in here just to be cute and quirky and didn't actually do anything with it. If you're not going to do adventure fox level shit, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't take foxes and use them without making them cool as fuck. The bar is adventure fox and then the fox from Even the Darkest Stars. If you're not somewhere around there, you're not doing it right. I could do a whole video on magical animal companions. I fucking love them, especially foxes. Don't make a fox worth nothing to the story. Don't waste my time. So anyway, the fox bites her on the arm and she decides to adopt it. Aww. They then flirt some more where he explains that her heartbeat is different than his heartbeat, where his is very chill and hers is erratic like a hummingbird. I've fucked plenty of humans. Does that surprise you? Yes, seeing as you seem to hate us so much. I don't hate your kind. I'm just disappointed by how breakable you are. If I held you down and fucked you the way I'm imagining you right now, I doubt you'd survive it. Is that a threat? I wouldn't you if you were the last living. Don't bother. Lying is pointless with your heart betraying you so loudly. It's beating fast because I'm afraid. Of me? No, you're not. You should be, but you're not. That's one of the things I like most about you. Your body is betraying you in other ways. I could smell you, little Osha. I'm thinking about drinking the sweet nectar you're making from me straight from the fucking cup.
Oh my god, ew, David!
I just want to remind you that we are already talking about arousal and we are not talking about plot. So he tells her, you should kiss me. Kiss me. I'll sit right here. I won't move a muscle. You're intrigued. You're bored. You're super fucking aroused right now and you want to follow through on whatever little fantasies are playing out in your head. And so she lunges for him.
Ew, no, David.
And they kiss a little and then he and her pull back. Well, it turns out that she stole something from him, but I didn't know this until the next chapter, which if we were going to do that, then I would have loved for her to have some agency in this moment where she's like, oh, well, I'm going to kiss him, but I'm going to steal that shit from him. So she goes to the pool, the Quicksilver pool that lives in this castle. She wakes it up, 'cause she's the alchemist. And just before she's about to drop into that bitch, a terrible wind howled through the cavern. A wall of shifting, glittering black sand slammed into me, knocking me back. And of course, it's Fisher with his shadow magic. Y'all are ruining shadow magic for me. I hate this. Next, you're gonna what? Ruin necromancy? Ugh. I'm going home, Fisher. You can't stop me. Apparently, I can. You're such a bastard. And you are a lying little thief. She stole his ring, I believe, that she thinks is also like his necklace, but it's not. He's been lying about that. Fine, I took your stupid ring, but I didn't lie to you. You crawled up onto my lap and kissed me and rubbed yourself all over me and used the opportunity to take something from me. I needed it so I could go home. I'm not sorry. You wouldn't be either if you were me. I wouldn't have been dumb enough to do it in the first place. You guys are all pretty stupid, so I doubt it. The ring isn't a relic. It's a trinket and nothing more. It wouldn't have protected you. And she's like, but it's supposed to have shielded you when you went through the pool and I was wearing your necklace. And he's like, yeah, it's not true. So you traveled through without your pendant to save me? I'm stronger than you, idiot. I've spent hundreds of years forging barriers and words around my mind that you couldn't begin to comprehend. My mind is This is so stupid. My mind is an impenetrable vault. Oh, he's in his mind palace. You are going to stay here and you're going to figure out how to create relics for us. You're going to figure out how to manipulate the Quicksilver if it's the last thing you do. And she's like, fine. Then you go through the pool. You go get my brother and my friend Elroy and bring them over here. And he's like, who the fuck is Elroy? I'm not bringing two people. I'll go get your brother. And there's really no reason that he couldn't have gotten both. It's just he didn't. I don't know. I'll go help your brother. You help me and assist me in any way I ask you to, and you do as you're told. Do you agree to this pact? Oh, no, don't make a bargain with a fae, idiot.
I think you should stay out of it, David. You're not good under pressure.
You understand this is a blood oath, and you will be bound by this oath until death. The fox shows back up, and she names it Onyx, because it's black. Great. Again, nothing beats Adventure Fox. Adventure Fox named themselves. So he goes into the pool, he comes back out of the pool, and he says, here, and she's like, this isn't my brother, this is Carrie and fucking Swift. The guy she talked about earlier who she had previously been fucking, who somehow does a bunch of trade and can move people to different wards, but never moved her and her brother. I don't fucking know. I tracked your bloodline. It led me right to him. I asked him who he was. He said he's Hayden Fane. Ergo, I brought you Hayden Fade. He says, stay here for a minute, do not move. And she literally can't move because she is bound to obey him because she made a blood oath like a fucking dumbass. I swore I'd help the Avelian Fae figure out how to use the Quicksilver. Think again. What did I say when I asked you if you agreed to the pact? You said you'd go and get my brother and in return I would help create relics for Avelia. I said verbatim, I go and get your brother, you help me and assist me in any way I ask you to, and you do as you're told, you agree to this pact. You fucking tricked me. You sealed the deal with blood. Now I'm telling you, find a horse and a saddle up, we're leaving. So he's just kidnapping her and she has to go. She made a blood pact like a dumbass because for some reason the fae that brought her into this world, like Everlane, didn't tell her, hey, by the way, fae can't lie, but we can swindle you and we can make blood pacts and you have to follow them, so please be careful doing that, stupid human. But no, we just didn't give her any information for no fucking reason to set us up to be in this situation. Sure, all right. On the way out of the city, he explains to her, my father and Belicon had a long history. He saw what Belicon was planning long before he murdered the royal family and stole the crown for himself. I don't know why anybody follows this guy, but all right. He took precautions and warded his land so that neither Belicon nor any of his supporters could cross into them. He's talking about his father. He was powerful and his words were strong. They remain as solid as ever. Belicon can travel to the borders of Kalish, his land, but he can't enter. As long as I live and carry my father's line, he never will. I don't understand why Bellicon just doesn't kill him, but okay. Renfist, talking to Cerys about Kingfisher, says, he's not what you think he is. He used to be kinder, but the quicksilver inside of him, it makes it difficult for him to think straight. It wears on him. It's exhausting for him. Shutting out the voices, it made him hard. It made him hard.
Oh my god, ew, David!
There was so much sadness in his voice as he spoke. It made me want to open my eyes to see what kind of expression he was wearing, but I couldn't manage it. You shouldn't make excuses for him. They aren't excuses, Cerys. I've known him my whole life. We were born to different parents, but we're brothers in every way that counts. I know him better than I know myself. The first time Bellicon forced him to travel without a relic, the silver infected him so badly that I thought we'd lost him altogether. You said you hadn't seen him for 110 years. Where was he? I can't tell you that. It wouldn't be fair. He'll tell you himself at some point. So Carrion finally wakes up, and she's like, okay, where's my brother? How is my brother? Is my brother alive? Of course he's alive. Why wouldn't he be alive? Because Madra swore she was going to find him and kill him. She said she was going to destroy the ward. And why in all 4 winds would she do that? Now we got 4 winds? I thought we had 5 gates of hell. What? You know why? Because I took that cursed gauntlet. Hayden's in the 7th ward. I got him papers and shifted in that first night when you were taken up to the palace. You couldn't have done that sooner? For what possible reason? He's now gainfully employed as a store clerk. I am just in shock that this is a possibility that we never thought of before. It isn't glamorous work, but it's better than having no job at all. It's also better than living in the 3rd, so why didn't you get them out sooner? Ah! He has triple water rations and a room above the shop. I haven't visited for a couple of days. He says it's almost even light, which is apparently some sort of celebration. The whole city's been buzzing with the talk of what gifts she'll bestow on us this year. She has the Guardians building a stage in the center of the market square. This never comes up again because we don't go back to Zilvarin. But she swore that everyone in the 3rd would die, and yet no one has. I don't understand why. So you kissed that guy then, the one with the creepy sword and the bad attitude? What does that have to do with anything? He wants me to make relics for him, so the members of the Fae can travel without losing their minds. But how are you going to do that? She's about to find out. Kingfisher is always sneaking up and answering questions or sentences that other people say. He does it at least 5 times in this book. It's so stupid. He's right behind me, isn't he? Is my most annoying. Kingfisher realizes that the two of them were in some way together, and it says he stilled, his fingertips curling tighter around his sword's hilt. His sword's name is Nimarel. His eyes darted from Carrion to me, back again. Then he looked off towards the other side of the room, seemingly at nothing. She says, listen to Kingfisher, I will go with you, but you need to promise me, word for word, that you will release me and allow me and Carrion to return to Zilvarin the moment that I have made enough relics for your people. And she still was not specific enough, so obviously he could just indefinitely, he could say any number and she could be there indefinitely. She is really stupid. She should have said, how many relics and how much time will it take? Okay, I'm only willing to do this for a year to make this many relics, promise. We then get introduced to something called shadow gates, which basically are also teleportation pools. No, not pools, gates. And they are able to get you like teleported from one place to another in this world, but they don't teleport you to other worlds like the Quicksilver pool. So we're going to be using shadow gates a lot to pop in and out wherever the fuck we want to go. So he says, okay, so the families that fight for me here in Kalish, his realm, I want you to take their rings that have great meaning to them, and I want you to turn them into relics. There are nearly 15,000 rings here. Do you have any idea how long it would take to melt down each of these and cast it into another one? Years, I'm sure, but don't worry. We're not looking for a pretty piece of jewelry. You'll melt down the ring, transmute its properties so that it shields the wearer against Quicksilver. I said I'd help you make enough relics. And she's like, oh no, I'd done it again. I hadn't paid attention to the details. Because you're stupid. You're stupid. I don't know how back in your world, hearing your name at one point in the beginning of the book was somehow it like akin to like, oh, it's Cerys Fane. Is Cerys Fane known for being stupid as fuck? Because that's what I'm getting. It could take weeks. It could take months.
Sure, this day will come. It's just a matter of time. Could be 1 month, could be 2 months.
3 months.
Could be
4 months.
I can see that happening, yes.
8 months.
That's a realistic timeline.
So she's learning alchemist shit where she's learning that different metals have different properties. And I'm like, that's cool. I like that idea, where they like speak to her on a different level, right? They have their own frequencies. They're not like talking, but they have like frequencies that they're, frequencying out to her. Talking to Fisher's friend Renfist again, he's like, oh, I gave him hell for making that bargain with you. That was super shitty of him. The only way he can make it up to me would be to start getting to know you a little better. Oh, I fear that this part of him has only gotten worse while he's been away. He has to keep things very straight in his mind. Otherwise the lines get blurred. God forbid they get gay in his mind, right? Right now you're a tool he feels he has to use to make life better for us all. My concern is that a tool pushed to its limit is a tool that will probably break. And to be blunt, Saris, you're a tool. You're a tool. You're a tool none of us can afford to let Fisher break. He needs to see you as a person. He needs to know you're more than our way out of a tight corner. I told him he needed to have dinner with you tonight. So she sees Fisher again, and of course, seeing his canine teeth, she gets horny. Why do I need to know this? I don't know, but since I have to know it, you have to know it too. Then she asks him, hey, how the fuck did you end up picking up Carrion instead of Hayden? Now they're having this conversation chapters later. You said you could find my brother because we had the same parents. That it'd be easy since you were covered in my blood. When you were grinding yourself all over my lap, you marked me up very sufficiently. I detected your scent from 3 miles away. Plastered all over that boy. Pheromones are signal flares to our noses, little Osha. That means that instead of detecting her brother, he detected her ex-lover who still had her pheromones on him months later. So he tracked her friend by her vagina juice that is somehow still on that dude months later. Got it. He still smells of you even now. I slept with him months ago. Months. It was once, and I was drunk, and he's never let me live it down since. There's no way you can still smell it on him. There's every way. I'd know the smell of you anywhere, on anyone. I'd know it blind and in the dark.
Oh my god, ew, David!
Across a fucking sea, I'd be able to scent you. They're having this conversation over dinner. Can you believe that? I'm dying inside. Then suddenly, the windows explode. Boom! The windows along the east of diner wall blew in. Fisher became death. And it's these tall monsters with patchy, stringy hair and white, waxy skin, gaunt cheeks, spider-webbed with black veins, crooked fingers that terminated, I think she meant culminated, or like at the end. That's just not the right word. So they fight these things, but she gets clawed by one. And they are the Sanis Rothian foot soldiers, so the enemy soldiers. They're also called feeders. They're the reason why we need silver so badly. It's the only thing that can kill them. So she passes out. He gets her a healer. She wakes up. Paintings hung on the walls in gilded frames, so the artwork within those frames was slashed to ribbons. Oh my god, that sounds familiar. Above, the ceiling was painted black, pinpricks of white strewn across it in no apparent design or order. A chest of drawers made from rich, dark wood sat across the wall by the door. The sheets were black. The cushions at the foot of the bed were also black, along with the mostly black clothes hanging in the armoire.
Why is it dark? It's like a witch's house in here, David.
Gee, I wonder whose room would this be? Give you one guess. She's like, oh my god, that was so bad. What happened? And he's like, oh, that was nothing. That was just some foot soldiers. Foot soldiers, they blew up your dining room, sir. Why are all the paintings in here torn up like that? Because I destroyed them. Of course he did. Of course he destroyed them. He's like so emotionally damaged. Oh my god. Sometimes my pendant can't stave off the darkness that creeps in. So he tells her, you have to heal. So unless you have to relieve yourself, you're not allowed to get out of that bed. And he means it. Like literally, she cannot physically leave the bed. Because under oath, she's under oath. She is my favorite band in 2009. She is not allowed to move from that bed. And he's leaving. He's gonna pass through a shadow gate and go to Inir, a war camp. And they like argue, but also it's like sexually charged. For the record, I'd never use an injury as an excuse to sneak my way into a bed. I've never had a problem securing an invite. Well, don't count on an invite from me. You're right. I don't think you will invite me. When the time comes, I think you'll beg.
Ew, no, David.
5 long fucking days. I ate in Fisher's bed, slept in Fisher's bed. Honestly, I wish somebody would command me to go to bed and I had to listen. Oh no, whatever will I do? Not lay there with no responsibilities and read my books. So then Carrion comes in. Of course he does. And he's like, you know what we should do? Revenge fuck on his bed. Oh yeah, sure. Sounds like a great idea, idiot. What do you think he'll do to you if he knows you fucked someone on his bed? Just so I know, is that a no to fucking in your captor's bed or no to fucking in general? What do you think? He's allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants. He goes out with the guards. He learns to fight like a fae. And then he tells her, yeah, so your Kingfisher guy, he doesn't like the way that I smelled. So he made a bunch of fae come in and wash me with this like very particular moss. He was very dead set on the idea of me taking a bath and getting rid of whatever smell I have. Which, to be clear, if you weren't following, is the smell of her vagina juice.
Okay. It's called sweat equity, David.
Great. And of course, this turned sexual. You've been in Avelia for 5 seconds and you've already had a foursome with a different species of magical creature? Honestly, like, good for him. I'd rather be listening to him do that than listen to you. When Fisher comes back, she's like, I can't believe that you would do this to me. You shouldn't do it because it's wrong. You can't go around forcing people to do things that they didn't want to do. Do you have no conscience whatsoever? Are you just evil? If I was evil, I'd have used your oath to my advantage by now. If I were evil and using your oath for my own purposes, I'd order you onto your knees for me. I'd order you to part your legs for me. I'd order you to suck me and f me until you passed out from exhaustion. Is that what you want, little Osha? Of course not. Why would I want that? If I compelled you to do it, you'd be innocent. Your actions wouldn't be your fault. You wouldn't have to face the fact that you wanted me. And I'd prove what a vile monster I was, wouldn't I? How vindicating for you. You'd get exactly what your body is calling out for while also be proven right. I don't want you, Fisher. You're thinking about my hands sliding up the insides of your thighs right now, about my fingers slipping inside the wet folds of you. Oh, there's folds. That's great. Working against your swollen rubbing you until you're panting and whimpering, begging for me to sink my into your... Yeah, that's just great. Oh, so great. I'm so glad I'm here for this. I want you to obey me because I brought you here. That makes me responsible for you, and I need you alive so that you can work on those rings for us. Without them, we'll be trapped in this stalemate with Santa's wrath forever, neither side winning or losing. I'll never be able to reclaim my family's land. So yes, I will force you to obey me if I need to, and I won't feel conflicted about it. The stakes are too high. Have you paused to consider that I want to stay alive, that I do whatever it was you wanted me to do? If you just explained why it was important to my well-being, I want to help you, Fisher. I'd do it gladly. For some reason, I have this weird ability that can help protect Avelia from being ravaged by a tide of corrupted, bloodthirsty monsters. I've seen what they're capable of. I know how horrifying they are. I wouldn't wish them upon anyone. This is so dramatic for no reason. And for some reason, he just like cuts her off by exploding in black shadows that are spilling from his fingers. He slams her up against a bookcase and starts to make out with her. And she's like, fuck, Fisher, I want you. Then he pulls back and then she's like standing there. She says his name. He comes back. He cups her face in his hands. He makes out with her more, hard, fast. His lips were on mine, though they didn't part. It only lasted a second. It says that he smells of mint and midnight forest. Yes, because we know that the forest has a distinct smell at midnight that simply it does not have at 11:30 p.m. Anyways, they stop making out to go talk to everybody. They're at the war camp together. Some girl named Danya, who's literally only there to create unnecessary drama and be a pain in the ass, shows up. We're all here, Fisher. Let's hear it. Let's hear the amazing fucking reason why you left us high and dry for the past century years. Why is it saying century years? Again, is this a Fey world thing? Why are we saying century years? And you decided to slink back to us now with your tail between your legs? I'm not slinking anywhere. We're supposed to be a family and you fucking abandoned us. That isn't what happened. He's not our commander. He sacrificed that title when he abandoned us. And Renfus is like, could you just tell them what happened? They'll understand. No, Kingfisher says, I don't like to communicate. It's more dramatic if I keep things to myself for no reason. I didn't want to leave any of you back at Gilla 3. I wish I could tell you why I had to go, but I can't. All I can say is I had no other choice. It was Belicon, wasn't it? He forced you to go. I understand why we had to torch the city. I can't tell you. I wish I could, but I can't. I returned as soon as I could. Believe me. She tries to attack, and Corsaris is like, stop! Danya's sword explodes into 1,000 shards and are stuck in the stonework of the building that they're in. And somebody says, we have a fucking alchemist, and Fisher, of course, what do you think he's gonna say? She's mine! No. We didn't need that. We didn't need to hit another bingo square. Before anyone can react, a thunderous boom shook the ground. Santa's wrath. The enemy's at the riverbank. The ice must be broken. All right, so who is at the riverbank? Vampires. There's vampires in this. Yes, perfect. Just what I didn't ask for. You ever go to a fast food restaurant and you get a bag of food and you open it and you're like, oh wow, this isn't what I ordered at all. And it's also not even something I want to eat. That's me right now. That's great. So across the river is a guy named Malcolm, a fae/vampire person. I know you're over there. It's only been a couple weeks since we last spoke, but what can I say? I miss you. Malcolm missed Fisher? It had only been a couple weeks since they'd spoken? The implication was clear. This Malcolm, king of the vampires, wanted everyone amongst the Fae to know that their precious leader, returned to them at long last, was in league with Malcolm in some way. You don't say. Thanks for spelling it out for me. Anyway, they part ways because, you know, they're across a river and we all know that people can't cross rivers by boats. Okay. He's starting to get weirdly affectionate by the next chapter and he's like, you never wore the dresses I put out for you.
Well, I'm not gonna wear my own clothes into the room, David.
And by the way, don't share food with that prick again. And she says, what? He says, swift. Carrion, your friend, earlier. You were sharing food with him. You were trading cake back and forth with him for ages. It wasn't cake. I don't care what it was. Just stop sharing food with him. Why not? Because I fucking said so. Is it some weird Fae custom that I don't know about? Is it like the soup thing? Is it? It doesn't mean anything. Share all the bowls of stew you like with Lorith or Ren. Just don't share food with that prick. It's bad enough you insist on sharing air with him. What have you got against Carrion? I don't want to talk about Carrion. And she's like, can we talk about what happened? I saw the look on your face in the map room when Daniel wanted to lob my head off. You were afraid for me. I was afraid that you'd die and I wouldn't be able to get back home. You made an oath to send me back when I was done. Aren't you even a little concerned that your so-called friends are going to think you've been helping that Malcolm guy? They didn't make it across the river. They made it halfway. That's as far as they ever make it. Malcolm sends his army out from time to time just to remind us that he's there. We break the ice. He loses a wave of foot soldiers. Everyone goes back to normal for a while. You just drowned hundreds of vampires. You can't drown something that's already dead. I mean, if they're alive in some way, then yes, you literally can. Why was Malcolm different? He was nothing like the feeders, the monster ones that blew up the dining room. He seemed normal. Malcolm's a high Fae vampire, the very first. We were cursed thousands of years ago, and the Fae turned into something very like Malcolm. Malcolm is the strongest of them, their king. Of all the Fae who chose to remain vampires, he alone is strong enough to fully turn someone and ensure they remain themselves. The vast majority of Malcolm's horde were once human. Where do you think most of your kind went? You were with him, weren't you, for all those years you were missing? I can't tell you that. You're bound, aren't you? I said. Have you considered that I might not want to tell you because it's none of your business? Whatever happens to you affects me, and you don't hate me as much as you pretend to. I know you want me. I can want to fuck you and still hate you, little Osha. I'm pretty sure earlier he said he doesn't hate her and that there's stuff that he likes about her. I'm pretty sure he said, I don't hate you guys, you humans are just so fragile, and he's like annoyed by it. But sure, all right. The moment you fuck me, things are gonna change between us. Sure, I'll scratch the perverse little itch. I'll be able to move on with my life. You want to bite me, I whispered. You nearly did it back in your tent. You scratched me with your teeth. You drew fucking blood. It's dangerous to speak so flippantly about things you do not understand. She doesn't understand anything. That's sort of the theme here. Is it not? Make me understand. Prove to me that I'm wrong. I'm telling you to fuck me, Fisher. I'm asking you to. And of course, immediately, he doesn't even let her finish the sentence. He attacks her with his mouth. He stole my words, claiming my mouth with a ragged snarl. So we have wet folds and claiming. We're just hitting all the bingo today. It says that he takes off his shirt, but it says ripping the smoky material over his head. I don't know what she means by smoky material. Is that like a literal, is he wearing a shadow shirt? I don't know. The cards had been on the table for a while now. We were either going to kill each other or fuck each other, and I was glad we were opting for the latter option. I was holding out for the first, to be honest with you. Oh, it'd be great if you both were dead. Oh, I forgot I have to read this out loud. Good. You asked for this. When you're sore from so hard and you can't recall your own name, remember that, little Osha. I would just like for one of these books to not, your own name. For real, I don't believe you. I don't believe that any man has actually done that ever. Now, what I will say is, I said this before in a video this month, and I'll say it again. I don't think that women are writing people's faces enough in fantasy romance books with a lot of smut in them, and this book's doing it. So good for me. I'm glad that we're 2 for 2 this month. Except the way that he talks to her makes me want to hurl. My, so worked up already. You're slick as hell. What do you taste like? Are you gonna scream for me like a good girl while I have you ride my face? When you take all of me, remember to breathe. Actually, could you just choke me until I pass out so I don't have to experience this at all? I can't wait to hear what kind of sounds you make when I thrust into you for the first time, he purred. I'm gonna make you pant for me, little Osha, and when we're done, I'll close my eyes and replay the sound of you moaning in my head every time I stroke myself to completion. I'm surprised you have this much time to beat off when you're in the middle of a war, but all right. She is amazed at the sheer size of his erect cock as it sprang free from his pants, made her eyes round out of my head. They rounded out of her head. Her eyes round out of her head. I don't understand what we're doing here. I don't fucking know. His cock was perfect. Rigid iron wrapped in silk and velvet. Oh, look at that. We're bringing up velvet in regards to dicks again. Sarah, is that you? Sarah J. Maas, are you here with us? Give me a sign if you're in the room. We're all Fae males this well endowed. Was it a Nivelian thing or was this a Fisher thing? I bet it's a Fisher thing because as we all know, you can't have a love interest in one of these books without having the biggest dick to ever dick. You're absolutely fucking perfect. If Danya does rip my head off tomorrow, the girl with the sword that she exploded, at least now I'll die happy. And so he asks her to spread her legs and he looks at her center and says, such a pretty flower blooming just for me.
Oh my god, ew, David!
Ooh, don't ruin flowers for me. me too. Have I not suffered enough? And of course, his canines are longer than she'd ever seen them, sharper. His left canine had punctured his lower lip and had drawn blood. You smell so fucking good. Back in the forge at the palace, I caught a hint of this. I knew then I had to taste you. The smell has been haunting my fucking dreams. I haven't been able to think straight for remembering the scent of your need. I could probably use a shower. Do not fucking dare finish that sentence. Ugh.
It's called sweat equity, David.
Being anti-shower is a turnoff. I'm so sorry. I don't want a mouthful of soap and perfume. I want to taste you. Yeah, but like at least let's like rinse the sweat off, right? So then of course he like goes to town and he says, you don't get to come until I say so. Oh, please. Oh my God, I'm so close. This wasn't just an orgasm. It was an awakening. Okay. As he's about to, you know, he says, hold on tight then. I hope you're not afraid of the dark. Not afraid, but you are ruining it for me. So that's great. Just one stroke. He'd enter me once and I was done for. Witch, he accused. You do have magic. Magnificent, he rasped. Gods and fucking martyrs. Holy shit. That's right. Show me how pretty you are when you fall apart. This is possibly the worst dirty talk that I have ever read. And I have read so much. Actually, no, I would say that whatever the fuck was happening in that one as Allie Hazelwood book was like deeply unsettling for me, but this is a close second. So after they're done, she notices that she has something inked above her boob. And she's like, this is one of your tattoos. You need to take it back. It doesn't work like that. Bullshit, it doesn't. It came from the ink on your body. You touched me. It slipped from your skin to mine. So fuck, I don't know. Shake hands with me or something and take it back. I'm not shaking hands with you. I have plans for my own tattoos, you know. Then, for some reason, they bring up the fact that she is sterilized. The third ward's the poorest. Madras health advisors decided that we shouldn't be allowed to procreate. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to support ourselves. The policy's been in effect for 100 years. 7 out of every 10 female babies are tagged when they are registered. Wait, so you guys are registered, but you can just hop to a different ward and get away with it? Okay. At learning this information, which she just presents to him like super nonchalant. She does not think of this as sickening, even though she knows that the way that the third ward is treated is gross in every other capacity. She doesn't think this particular thing is sickening. Okay. Fine. Oh, right. They were having a birth control conversation, I think. But his reaction to this is his expression flattened out. His eyes went blank. What? I figured you'd think it was good news. He's disgusted by the fact that she got forcibly sterilized and she doesn't think that it's disgusting. He's going to have to point this out as being disgusting later because she doesn't know, even though she knows that she's oppressed in every other way. What the fuck do you mean? Anyway, she has a conversation after they, separate with Carrion, her former fuck buddy, who tells her that his grandma had a book. Has all kinds of pictures, illustration, the text faded in places, but she knows that damn thing cover to cover. I know it by heart now too. Fae of Creatures of the Gilarian Mountains, it's called. There's a note written on the first page. It says, never forget, monsters thrive best in the dark. Commit all you read here to memory. Prepare for war! Exclamation point, exclamation point. So that's what's at the beginning of this book. So that answer is stupid. 2 exclamation points. The Swifts have always been very serious people. Grandma always took the superfluous punctuation to mean that the situation, should these Gilarian Fae creatures ever show their faces, would be very dire indeed. I wasn't allowed to have dessert until I recited at least 7 traits of the Griffin Sprite or explain in great detail how to kill a blooded Fae warrior wearing full plate and armor. And I'm like, wait, but weren't you like very surprised at learning the fighting of Fae beforehand just like 3 chapters ago? Okay. Where the hell had a book about the Fae come from? Matter had burned any literature that even mentioned the Fae or magic a long time ago. Anyway, of course, you know who, Fisher jumps back into the scene, and after Carrion calls our main character Sunshine, he's like, don't call her Sunshine because she's moonlight, the mist that shrouds the mountains, the bite of electricity in the air before a storm, the smoke that rolls across a battlefield before the killing starts. You have no idea what she is, what she could be. You should call her Majesty. And she just thinks nothing of this. That's like a whole ass love letter, my friend. Obviously, the dicking down had an effect on him as well. And she's just like, well, that was weird. God, I hate stupid main characters. So come to find out, Kingfisher, much like every other shadow-wielding bad boy from every single fantasy romance ever, has an inner circle. And in this book, it's called the Lupo Proelia. Kingfisher's wolves. There are 8 of us, though our members have been reduced as of late, and Danya, the one who tried to kill him yesterday, is one of them. They normally wear like some sort of wolf on their armor. And the sword that she destroyed, because all of the Lupo whatever the fuck carry like special shit, the sword she destroyed was a weapon that has profound cultural importance for all of Feykind. Great job, Saris. You are doing great. And Danya's like, she understands the weight of what she's done and doesn't even give a shit. And Kingfisher says, do you want to give her a moment to see if she can fix the sword you tried to kill me with? Or do you just want to pace about and yell some more? And finally having the conversation about why metal was so hard to get in Zilvarin, the city she's from, he's like, oh, well, there's trace amounts of quicksilver in basically all metal, and that's why it always spoke to you. That's why metal was so hard to find then. Madra took it all. She wanted to keep the quicksilver away from the people. She knew there might be people like me within the city capable of controlling it. I just thought that we knew that without saying it previously. Like, I just thought that that went without saying. Okay, Renfis is talking. Our historical records show that most alchemists could only command objects that the item in question was comprised of at least 5% quicksilver, and even then it was typical that they could only transmute the quicksilver from its solid to its liquid state so that it could be forged. There are no records of objects being fragmented like this. And she's like, so that makes me an anomaly? You're the special? I'm shocked. That makes you the most powerful alchemist ever recorded, capable of changing how we've been fighting this war in ways we can't even imagine. And they're like, by the way, we only have a year to tip the scales in this war. And I'm like, wow, that is convenient timing, but okay. Another part of this Wolfgang, another part of the Wolfgang is a guy named Lorith, who previously he was like a bard and he got hurt really bad. And Fisher brought him into the fold because he saved his life. Like, Fisher decided to save Lorith's life. He bonded a small part of himself to the life that was clinging inside of me. I was sick as a dog, but death loosened its grip on me. If I die first, the piece of Fisher's soul returns to him and he becomes whole again. Everybody has a big party at the end. But if he dies first, he's condemned to wait here for me to die before he can move on. He'd be trapped here in a non-corporeal state, unable to touch anything or anybody. Because Fisher is a nice guy, despite being an asshole this whole time. Oh my gosh, where have I seen this before in every other book? Zayden Ryerson, Rhysand, the Plated Prisoner series. Over and over and over, it's the same thing. He's so mean, except he's secretly nice to everybody in his inner circle. Nobody can know that he's a nice guy. So then they explain all these different ways that you can like extend your life. This is one of them. Taking tonics and elixirs and drinking vampire blood to extend your life. And I'm like, oh, I'm thinking that we're going to use one of these ways to explain why Madra is still alive, because she is human. We've been told she's human over and over again, right? Except that's not what we're doing at all. I don't know why we were told this at all. We don't know why Madra is still alive. I don't even remember if we got that answer. If we did, it was completely unimportant to the plot because, again, Madra is not the enemy. Kingfisher, despite saying she is the moonlight, she is the smoke, she is the majesty, goes to see this healer named Helena, and she immediately thinks, oh, I wonder if they're in a relationship. Bitch, he f***ed you, said he was obsessed with the smell of your vag, and then said that he thought you were not good enough to be called sunshine, but should be called moonlight and majesty. But sure, no, he has a girlfriend. You're right. That's logical. Got it. They go into this town called Ballard, and he explains some basic Fae shit to her. This very much feels like how Rhysand shows her, like, the nicest part, like Valaris, and is like, look, I'm secretly a good guy, and here's how my people are thriving, and explains, like, basic Fae shit to her, right? Our offspring actually age twice as fast as human children. We're fully grown by 21 or 22. Then the aging process slows down dramatically, and they have to do this, like, biologically because of predators. Plenty of dark and hungry things lurk in the forgotten corners of this realm, little Osha. At least 4 different kinds of banshee feed from the souls of the very young. Their vibrant energies just too potent for them to resist. Then there are wraiths and sawtooth mermaids and a whole plethora of blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of shit that will kill Fae young. And there's Malcolm, who, of course, as we know, is like Lord of the Vampires and the vampirist vampire. She's like, so you're the Lord of Kalish, and Kalish, whatever it is. And he's like, no, don't call me that. But that's your title. Weren't you your father's only son? That doesn't matter. A lord is charged with watching over his people. He protects them, defends them, creates a safe place for them to live. Where are they now, the people that used to live on my lands? On the wrong side of the dam. The Darn. Oh, the Darn, the river. Got it. Baying for the blood of their own fucking children. I left them for 110 years. Ren and the others did everything they could to stem the tide. It's not their fault. Oh, he left for 110 years, much like Rhysand was gone under the mountain for 50. Got it. I failed them. I don't deserve to be Lord of Kalish. I'm Lord of nothing. It hurt to see him like this, torn wide open by a grief that I could see now lived just below the surface of the stony, give-no-fucks facade he presented to the world. Why haven't you said anything about the other night? What happened with us? You made it very clear that as far as you were concerned, it was going to be a one-time thing. You made it very clear that you could hate me and still want to fuck me. I don't hate you. But there are things you don't understand, things that make it impossible for me. She starts to hear the Quicksilver calling out to her, Anarath Moore, Anarath Moore. I forget what that means. I don't know if it was ever explained. And he's like, oh no. And he takes her to his apartment where his mom used to live. Every single man is the same. Like, I literally just made this complaint about When the Moon Hatched. Everything just feels like Rhysand again. He loved his mom, and he had a bad dad, or stepdad in this case, and his mom had a secret apartment. And I'm just tired. I'm tired. So they fall asleep in his apartment in separate rooms. But of course, she wakes up to screaming, stop, no, I said no, stop. Wearing just his pants, Fisher lay in the center of a bed that was way too small for his body on top of the sheets. Well, yeah, he's 7 feet tall. I mean, he wouldn't even fit in my king-size bed. And she's like, what's wrong? He says, go. She's like, I won't go. I want to help you. He tells her to get him some water, then go back to bed and get some sleep. I'll make you go if I have to. If you use the oath you tricked me into to force me from this room right now, I'll never forgive you. I will make a way to make your life absolutely fucking miserable. In fact, while we're here having such a lovely conversation about this, you're never going to compel me against my will again. Do you hear me? Do you understand? So for hours and hours, she's sitting with him, dealing with these like nightmares slash he's like having these like experiences, and this is because of the Quicksilver. And of course, the animal companion that has absolutely, no relevance whatsoever to the story, it's just there to be cutesy, is hiding under the sheets. Adventure Fox would never. Adventure Fox would be out there finding answers, okay? Adventure Fox would be out there saving the day. He asked her, tell me something to distract me. My father died when I was 2. I don't even remember him. My mother was 4 months pregnant with Hayden when it happened. When we lost his income, my mother became a prostitute. Oh, I wish we would just call it sex work and not use the P word. Her client list was mostly comprised of guards, madras men. 5 days out of the week, she worked at this place near the market, the House of Kala. The man I used to apprentice for, Elroy, he loved her. She didn't want me to follow in her footsteps, so she made him promise to take me on in the forge as soon as I was old enough. She had me running items from our house to the forge every day soon after that. The Guardians didn't pay much attention to a scrawny kid on her way to work. Years went by, and she started to introduce me to all kinds of men. They showed me where the entrances to the various tunnels were, the ones that led to underground reserves where Madra kept water reservoirs. Plenty to supply the whole city and then some. They showed me how to tap the tanks and siphon off a little here and a little there. Why not steal all of it? Like, how are they going to prove that it's... Okay. They showed me how to pick locks and how to climb. I learned how to fight with daggers and how to throw them. A rebel would stay at the house hidden in the attic for a week or a month. So I learned how to fight and steal and how to take care of Hayden too, since our mother was never home anymore. My mother started to get angry. She was sick of being treated like crap and degraded by the men who thought they were so much better than her. She refused to accept Guardians as clients anymore. Yeah, it would stand to reason for me that the mom would teach her, they sterilized my daughter, and I'm angry about that, and I don't think that it's right that they sterilized any of us. So I just don't understand why it doesn't occur to her that her being sterilized is wrong, especially growing up with a mom who was a rebel. So she had turned a guardian away at one point for, sex work services, and then like the next day she is searched in the square, and they found 2 knives on her because she's a rebel, doing weapon shit. The punishment for carrying a weapon in the 3rd is death. I watched them slit her throat. No arrest, no trial. They love carrying out their sentencing on the spot. Saves time and energy, I suppose. She died face down in the sand in the blistering heat with 5 men pissing in her hair and on her back. Jesus. When I finally stumbled back home, I found our house all boarded up, the doors and windows blocked off with lengths of wood. There was a big black X across the stonework. Our house was the first house they quarantined. More followed, though. A week later, Madra had the whole ward placed on lockdown, no in or out. They said the ward was stricken with the plague. Again, all of this just like with the fact that the plague obviously did not reach anybody. I don't know how we didn't... Okay, never mind. I've already explained how this doesn't make sense. And they couldn't live with Elroy because they would have put 2 and 2 together that Elroy had made the daggers that her mom was carrying. So Hayden and her just sort of disappeared. But if nobody's going in or out, then what does it matter? Who's going to report them? My mother was killed too, he says. We have that in common, little Osha. I wanted to ask him what he meant by that, but he had already fallen asleep. The next morning, they end up fucking. She doesn't realize this, but she is mind speaking to him because did you think that this was coming? Because it's pretty obvious that it's coming. They're mates. Oh, I bet you were hoping for that. Yay, they're mates. They're mates. Yay, mating bonds. me with your fingers, choke me, hold me down and ride me till I scream. I'll make you beg, little Osha. I'll fill every one of those pretty little holes. I'll fuck you so hard you'll never want another male ever again. Every warrior in Inir will smell me on you.
Ew, no, David.
I'm going to make you hoarse from screaming my fucking name. I'm going to mark you in every way imaginable so that everyone knows you're fucking mine. Bite me, Fisher. I can't. Bite me. Do it. I want it. I can't. Then he thrust his up inside me to the hilt. Oh, there's the hilt. Bingo board, just ticking every box today. It was better than any drug I'd ever experienced before. You've been experiencing drugs? How are you getting your hands on drugs? How is that possibly possible? I'm gonna need you to explain what the fuck is going on in the third ward and do it quickly. An orgasm is described as the world ended, existence blinked out into a blank void. Existence blinked out into a blank, okay. The stars tumbled from the heavens and hell rose up to meet them. Interesting. I didn't know orgasms could do that. So he's like thrusting, grunting, then he ripped his mouth away from my skin and roared like he was dying. Wow, that good, huh? No, not like he was dying, like he was being reborn. And then afterwards, he makes her coffee, but he doesn't know how she takes it because, you know, they've barely had any conversations. Fisher wore a small smirk as I leaned across the table and fell upon the little pastries, custard-filled miniature pies, and diced fruit. And I'm sitting here thinking, y'all have that shit in a war zone? Okay. In the next chapter, she holds out her hands and realizes that she is literally fucking covered in tattoos. Not just the one up on her boobie, but the ones now all over her hands. The tattoos I hadn't cared so much about last night were still all over my fingers and the backs of my hands, except there were more of them now, many more. This happened while they were having sex, and she didn't realize that they stayed on her skin. Stacks of small runes ran up each of one of my fingers. My mother would never have approved of this. Your mom was a rebel, killed for carrying illegal weapons. But she drew the line at tattoos? Okay, no, that's fine. No, it's fine. Go ahead. Go ahead. Don't just sit there, speak. I'm thinking, he said. Give me a moment. And now you can read my thoughts? No, I can't read your thoughts. I can hear you when you speak at me directly, though. That's all. What the hell does all this mean? What does this tattoo mean? I can't give you a definitive answer. Not yet. There's magic in it, isn't there? There's magic in all of them. Obviously, they traveled from his skin to your skin. Obviously, the tattoos are magic, ma'am. Or did you somehow miss a tattoo gun while you guys were thrusting? Are the magical tattoos that got there magically magic? Who's to say? Ugh. So he magically makes them disappear, but he says that they are not gone for good. So he magically does a temporary tattoo removal. So he's like magical that Kat Von D makeup. You can change your mind about them later if you want to. You have a month or so. If you decide over the next few weeks that you want them back, I'll return to you. The marks are chosen for you. They won't be there after a month. If you decide not to accept them, they'll be gone for good. This is the sign of their mating bond, which I don't hate the idea of tattoos for it. It's just, I don't like these people. Except the bird tattoo below her collarbone, he can't take that one back. No, I can't take that back, and I'm sorry for that. You don't need to be sorry. I'm pretty attached to it now. I just thought since you removed these, not removed, only hidden for now anyway. No, I can't take that back. I'm sorry for that. He hadn't been talking about the bird tattoo. He'd been talking about the bite mark at my throat. He vampired her. Oh. So she still cannot get the Quicksilver to meld with the other metals. She doesn't understand how to create, what are they called? Relics? And Carrion's like, well, have you tried asking the Quicksilver? And she's like, that's silly. Of course he can't just ask it. She literally can. That's the answer. Asking nicely, using her good manners, her good alchemist manners was the answer all along. So she talks to the Quicksilver that was that I think was inside of the sword that she broke apart that belonged to Danya. And she's like, Danya wishes to carry you again. And they're like, okay, give us music and we shall obey. But it must be a song worthy of glory. So of course, Lorith shows up and he's like, I want to help. He sings a song about Fisher, actually, about something that happened with Fisher, which I don't remember or care about at all. It just goes to like prove the point that Fisher's actually such a good guy. And then he touches the sword and I think oh, that's right. It was so sharp he accidentally bled on it. And the Quicksilver says to Ceres, we accept the song as tribute. The bargain is fulfilled and a chord is struck. We are reforged now unto this place. You do not claim us, Lorith of the Broken Spires. We claim you. And Fisher says, this is going to be hilarious. Danya's going to be so mad because the new forged sword has decided to bond with Lorith instead of her. But it's okay because Lorith carved a wolf for the sword's pommel and it was his song that sealed it. So like, it's totally his sword. But he can't remember the song because the Quicksilver took the song. That was their payment. It was their song. So nobody remembers it except her, which honestly is a cool idea. And I would like it in a better book. And so she asks, will you allow this sword to channel magic? And it says, you know, we have to be named. I named you Avisiath, the unsung song, Redemption's Dawn, says Lorith. The moment he finished speaking, a blue flame ripped down the sword's blade, searing runes into the metal. In its wake, alongside the script I had etched there, and then a brilliant white light erupted from the sword. And Fisher lets out a surprising whoop, joy shining from his face as he followed a column of energy up toward the heavens. Angel's breath, brother. Fucking angel's breath. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that Fisher was capable of joy. That's news to me. Who knew? Miracles happen every day, folks. I had to go turn my fan off because just like Saris in that one part of her life, I'm freezing. So in Fisher's tent, he conjures a clawfoot tub for her. And I'm like, so you guys have problems getting stuff because of the trade, right? Like the pools were sealed and therefore you like didn't have materials. If he can just conjure anything, then what's the fucking problem? I don't understand. He can conjure a clawfoot tub, but he can't conjure, I don't know, food? So like, what's the limits of that? Is it just clawfoot tubs and all these clothes that he's been providing her with? Is it like non-edible materials? I don't really understand. And it's certainly not explained. Why would it be? That would be silly. Anyway, he says to her, I was wrong, you know. You are a good thief. What have I stolen? But he smiled, a small, sad smile, slowly shaking his head. His heart, dumbass. His heart. He's obsessed with you. He called you Majesty. He's fucked you several times. He bit you. He doesn't want you fucking around with Carrion. He's obsessed with you. You stole his heart. You don't have two brain cells to rub together. You are stupid as hell. But she doesn't exist. She was written to be stupid so that we prolong this. I don't want it to be prolonged. It's better if we just hint at it and don't say this shit out loud. She tries to talk to the Quicksilver that is in his eyeball. I want you to leave Fisher. We cannot leave him. We are him. You're Quicksilver. You're not supposed to bind with living creatures. We bind with all kinds of weapons. Fisher isn't a weapon. He's a living, breathing weapon, the Quicksilver said. The best. We are him. He is us. We cannot leave. We will die. You'll die or Kingfisher? All of us. We are one thing, one weapon. It literally just leaves him later. It literally just leaves. I don't understand. The stakes here just get retconned later. Great. You're hurting him. He's suffering because of you. We are him. He is us. We all suffer. Alchemist, there is nothing to be done. So you're just going to keep pushing him until he cracks, until he dies? If you kill him, what then? Then we do as all dying things do. We return to the dirt. You're stealing his life from him. You have no right. We gave him his life. A boy. Just a boy. He was young when he entered our pool. He should not have survived it. We bound ourselves to him that he might survive. All gonna get retconned later. Because later, it's just gonna leave. No problems. Why would he have struck a bargain that would eventually cost him his mind? So he talks to her and he's like, I assume that did not go the way that you were hoping it would go. I've been waiting to see if you try to yank it out of me. It's not just inside me, it's a part of me. Without it, I'd die anyway. Renfish shows up and is like, hey, the horde of vampires, they're at the banks of the river again, so I guess we should head on down there and check that out. And she's like, I want to go too. You can only not make me go if you force me to stay, and I asked you not to do that anymore because it's rude and gross. Here it was, the moment he officially won or lost me. So he's like, yeah, you can go, and also here's my dad's sword. Great. So across the dam, when they get there, is Everlane. Remember his sister? She fell off the map for quite a while, and she was flanked by at least 100 vampires. Why the hell do they have Lane over there? Why isn't she already fucking dead? Look at her neck. She's wearing a thin band of gold. And there's a dude named Taladeus, and he says, your sister and I have a bottle of that red you like breathing back in the dining room. Why not join us for a glass? Fuck you, Taladeus, Fisher spat. If you've hurt her, oh please, you know me. I don't have the stomach for hurting the things you care about. My father, on the other hand, he does enjoy adding to his collection, and since he recently lost his most vaunted prize, what's vaunted? I've never even seen that word before. Praised or boasted about. Learn new things every day. It only makes sense that he'd want to replace it. Come on, you must have expected something like this from him. So it turns out that Malcolm has bitten Everlane, which means that she's enthralled to him. She's a trap. He wants you to bend him to his will, Taladeus says. Taladeus is apparently the son of Malcolm the vampire. You will either come and try to save her, even though doing so would be futile, or else you'll come for vengeance sake. Either way, he knows you'll come. He doesn't care why, only that you do. He's waiting for you, my friend, at the place that you brokered your last deal. Honestly, I think he's hoping for a repeat performance. Your darling Everlane was bitten 12 hours ago. You can do the math. If you aren't there to meet him when he arrives at his destination, he'll see that she makes it through the change and spends the rest of eternity on her back being fucked raw by Amontreath's most deprived residents, one after another, or you can give him what he wants. It's that simple. What does he want? What do you think he wants? Of course, it's Ceres. Evil Malcolm vampire man wants Ceres. In all caps, it says, well, he can't have her. He wants the alchemist Fisher, and if he has to burn down all of Avelia to claim her, you know perfectly well that he'll do it. So when they leave, she's asking a bunch of pertinent questions, obviously. Why is Malcolm's bite so different from the other vampires? Malcolm was the first to be affected by the blood curse, the very first. When Rurik Dianthus, the last Avelian king, discovered the cure, Malcolm was one of the few who chose to remain vampires. Over the centuries, the others who had accepted their curse were systematically killed off until only Malcolm remained. Malcolm ingested their power somehow. He is millennia old, undying, never aging. His venom is potent beyond imagination. When one of his lords bites a victim, they can drink and sate their thirst without killing. If they bite the same human a number of times, eventually they become enthralled. The victim becomes bound to the vampire who bit them, mindlessly devoted to their needs. They'll feed and fuck their master without a single thought for themselves. Inevitably, their masters grow bored and drain them, and then their victim dies. 3 days later, they rise from wherever they've been discarded and become the feeders you've seen at the river. So Everlane is in danger of basically being used for sex and feeding and then turning into a mindless feeding vampire and foot soldier for the Sanisroth army. Malcolm only needs to bite once to create a thrall. Everlane is now completely under his control. Even if we broke into Amontreath and managed to break her free, she wouldn't come with us. She'd fight so she could stay and please her master, and in less than 56 hours, she's going to die. His venom is lethal, Ceres. It only takes one drop. He doesn't need to drain her to kill her. The work is done. If Malcolm permits her to drink from him, and she actually does it, then she'll return and become something like Malcolm's lords. Like, what is his name? Taladeus. If she refuses to drink from Malcolm, or he refuses his blood to her, then she'll die and return as a feeder. Danya then realizes that Lorith has her sword, and she's mad about it. They get into a fight. She grabs the sword, and her hand explodes. And they're like, well, there's a chance it can be regrown. And Sarah says, Danya doesn't deserve her hand to be regrown. And I'm like, why are we creating girl hate for no reason? Why are we doing this? I'm not sure. I know we don't like the Bechdel test all the time, but I'm pretty sure that this book doesn't pass it. But they adopt her into the wolf gang. Her, Ceres, not Danya. And then at dinner, she's sitting at the dining table, and it says, this seat is reserved for the lady of the house, you stupid girl, Danya says. Etiquette dictates that only Fisher's wife is permitted to sit there. It's a position of high honor meant for a fey female born into one of the old houses, and you're just sprawled out there like you own the damn seat. You can't be serious, Fisher. We all know you fucked her. The whole camp can smell it on the two of you, but she's a human. And one of the guys is like, whoa, who the fuck are you to say she and Fisher don't belong together? And Ceres is like, whoa, belong together? Behind me, I feel Fisher stiffen. Yeah, okay, sure. No, it's fine. She hears Quicksilver talking to her again, and it's like, if you give us a secret, we will exchange it and turn into what you want us to turn into. And her secret, she gives it, is, I don't want to go back to Zilvarin anymore, not forever anyway. I want to go home, get Hayden and Elroy, and bring them back here to Avelia. That's a boring secret! Boo! Boo! Boring, you're boring. I'd made friends here, friends I cared about, who I had the ability to help win a war that had taken over their lives for hundreds of years. And then there was Fisher. And the Quicksilver, instead of saying, boo, you're boring, like I just did, says, yes, a good secret, very good. You want to stay, you want to save him. You must. The Kingfisher. Save him, save the gates, save Avelia. What do you mean, save Kingfisher? He's here, he's okay. And so she makes a relic ring, and it says Anarath more over and over and over again. She sees Taylena, whoever the fuck the healer that she thought Fisher might be in a relationship with, randomly, and she hears Taylena talking to Carrion, and Carrion's like trying to hit on her and trying to get her to have sex with him, and she's like, I am mated and married. And she sees Taylena's hands, and they're covered in runes. She's like, I've never seen such pretty tattoos before. Would you mind showing them to me? Tell me about them. They don't just show up on their own, the marks, like out of the blue overnight, or while, you're having sex with someone. It literally says while how you know you're having sex with someone? And she's like, no, this is the sign of a mating bond. We went and got these done. They don't just appear. Once upon a time, that was the case. Back when true mating bonds existed, unions between true mates were blessed with marks from the fates. I don't know what the difference is between the fates, capital F, and the gods, if there is any. That's where the tradition of inking our own hands originated from, but there's no such thing as true mates anymore. Oh, isn't there? Because her and Fisher are the special. Our ability to form mating bonds also died out over thousands of years until it disappeared altogether. Oh gods, I needed to sit down. So it's just a tradition now. People covered their hands in runes for luck. And what about script? You know, writing? Do people get that sometimes, like around their wrists? No, definitely not. You only see that kind of thing in storybooks. They called it a god binding, a blessing from the gods themselves. They weren't real, of course. The most important couples in Abelian history were said to have had them, but it's all romantic rubbish. And normally, the lovers in those stories always suffered terribly. One of them always died. They were beautiful tales, but they ended in heartbreak. So her tattoos are the special. So she goes and talks to Fisher and she's like, well, Taylena was telling me about where the tattoos come from. And then, haha, it literally says, and then, haha. Imagine my surprise when she told me about god bindings, Fisher. Fuck, he whispered. Why didn't you say my name before? You know why, he said into my mind. No, Fisher, out loud. All right, fine, have it your way. At first, I didn't say it because I fucking hated you. Hated what you represented. You said you didn't. I'm pretty sure he said he didn't hate her, but all right. And what was that? Weakness, vulnerability. But not you, me, my weakness, my vulnerability. I've known for centuries that you were coming, that you were just gonna show up one day and change everything. You're the chink in my armor, Saris. The soft spot where the knife slides in. You're the thing that Malcolm will hurt to hurt me. And I couldn't fucking bear it. And he's like, the reason I called you O'Shellith wasn't derogatory. It's because O'Shellith in Old Fae means most sacred. I sobbed. The name he gave me, the name I hated, was a declaration of what I meant to him even then. How did you know that I was coming? You said you knew. I was told a long time ago by my mother. She was an oracle. She wrote about you. My mother, pages and pages. She knew that she'd die soon, and so she wrote me a book. So this is kind of like how Farrah's mother-in-law knew that Reese would marry somebody and was making her dresses all along. My mother made dresses for my eventual wife, except in this it's like, you know, she was an oracle, she knew you were coming, and she did all this shit. She had no idea what your name would be, just that you'd have dark hair and a beautiful smile, and that I'd love you with a fierceness despite myself. That could be anybody. That could be me. I don't think I have a beautiful smile, but I definitely have dark hair. I could have walked into this Fae realm and he'd been like, that's her, that's that bitch, and then he would have been gravely mistaken, and I would have indeed found a part of his armor to stab him in. You're not going to talk to me during sex like that. Nope, I'm stabbing. Right in the throat, my guy. In all of her drawings of you, though, your ears were like mine. I saw that you were human, and I knew in an instant how easily this place could destroy you, so I made the decision to leave you there when I found you, but I couldn't leave you, could I? Your stomach was torn wide open. You were dying. I had no choice but to bring you back, so I decided to be awful to you so you'd fucking hate me and want nothing to do with me. My mother never said anything about a mating bond. They haven't existed for so long. But when I found you lying in that pool of blood, I felt it. Like a band snapping into place. Oh, Rhysand, you are with us. Here in the room. I smelled it on you too, and I was so fucking angry. I can't sleep. I'm haunted constantly. I see things, I hear things, and it's getting worse. This isn't just a relic, Saris. It's worded with spell work too. My mother went to the witches and had it, along with a number of items made from you before she died, things she knew I'd need. But this thing inside me is getting stronger. I refuse to bond with you with that on the horizon. I won't accept it. I won't have you chained to me when things get really bad. You rejected our bond? And he's like, no, I evoked a waiting period. This is so goofy. Rejecting the bond altogether would have been the right thing to do. Then why didn't you? I've asked myself that question a lot. Oh great, you've got it all figured out then. Congratulations, I'm so happy for you. You have to go home, Saris. You have to go back and work to free your people. You can still be happy. I'm going to die. What do you mean you're gonna die? You aren't dying. Wait, let's rewind. How the fuck would this bitch free her people? How on earth would she do that? What do you mean? So he admits that he is being driven to the point of madness by pain and horrific hallucinations, and it's no life to live, and he is planning on dying by suicide with Renfus's help. You can't just give up. If you die, so does Lorith. What? You saved him. You gave him part of your soul. If you die, you'll be trapped, waiting for your soul to be made whole again before you can move on. If I'm stuck floating around the ether for 1,000 years, and so be it, that will be indefinitely better than the alternative. In the morning, I'm going to the library and I'm going to research how to save Everlane and you, because I don't just throw my hands up and accept defeat when things get hard. I'm honestly shocked to learn that you do. Good grief. In the next chapter, they go back to his mom's apartment, which is above a bakery, and it's lit up in candles, and he says, I'm going to fuck you so hard you won't be able to sit down for a week. Cool. Godbound. We were godbound. Mates. I could feel it now, a bright thread of energy drawing us together as he wrapped himself around me. If I wanted it, all I needed was to reach out and claim it. Holy hell, so fucking wet, he says. She accepts the mating bond literally during sex, so the tattoos reappear. Your scent drives me crazy. You're like a fucking drug. You light me up. I knew exactly what he meant. How? Did they have drugs in the third or not? I'm so confused. Dedicating his full attention to the swollen bundle of nerves at the apex of my thighs. Wow, 2 of the phrases that get used in every smut scene ever in one sentence. That's gotta be a record. Nobody will ever fuck you the way I'm about to fuck you, Sarah's Fane. I'm about to introduce you to all 7 gods. When you meet them, don't forget to tell them I'm the one you worship on your knees. Listen, somebody's going to the gods and it's gonna be you, because I'm gonna stab you. Oh wait, she didn't accept the bond. He accepted the bond. I don't fucking know. Who cares? They're both gonna accept it anyway. We all know this. Just because I've accepted doesn't mean you have to. You still have weeks to decide. And if you reject the bond, then it won't matter. I'm in love with you, Sarah's Fane, and I'm already half mad anyway. Great. So in the next chapter, he releases her from her oath, and he's like, I'm going to go through this gate. I'm going to send Lane back. You can't come with me. After this, find Hayden and Elroy, help your friends, then go exploring. There are countless realms out there waiting to be found. Make one of them yours. And she's like, if Malcolm kills Fisher and laid his hand on a god sword, which is the kind of sword that he has, there was a chance he might find a way to convince it to channel. If that happened, then there were no limits to the destruction he might wreak, and he could steal the Quicksilver. There would be no escape for me or any of Fisher's friends. So Kingfisher had gone to Gillithry to save Everlane and everyone else he cared about, and he had gone there alone and unarmed because he left his sword behind. So he's going to Gillithry, and she's like, is there a silver pool there that we could, use? There was one a long time ago, but Bellicon took it when he came into power. He merged it with the pool at the Winter Palace, so it might be large enough to transport an army. So her and Carrion decide that they are going to go through a shadow gate and go to where Fisher is or something. I don't know. But Carrion's like, I'll help, but I want one of those weapons that you've been forging with the Quicksilver. And the Quicksilver decides that it will take payment in the form of a joke. Have you heard about the fire at the circus? It was intense. Get it? Intense. The Quicksilver's sort of laughing. So Carrion starts telling it a bunch of filthy jokes, and it decides that it will in fact be turned into a weapon and that Carrion can forge it and Carrion can wield it. And it says, you have to name us. And Carrion says, it looks like a Simon, which I guess is supposed to be funny. So pardon me while I laugh. Ooh, I can't will it to happen, sorry. Everlane shows up, so she's in safety, and everybody else is going to where Fisher is, very much not in safety. So they go to a huge amphitheater. The building, if it can even be called that, was some kind of mega structure. Yeah, an amphitheater. You just said it was an amphitheater. That's kind of the... Okay. Hundreds of thousands of people sat in the stands roaring at the top of their lungs. An amphitheater, which you already said it was. Okay. Oh, Anarathmore means release us. Got it. Yeah, completely forgot about that because it's irrelevant. So at this amphitheater is Bellicon, Malcolm the vampire, evil vampire overlord, Bellicon the evil stepdaddy, and Heron, the guard that she attacked with Quicksilver earlier in the fucking book. And to the left is Madra, Queen Madra. Malcolm says, I assume since no one appears willing to perform introductions that you are Ceres, and from your stature and the wolf emblazoned on your chest that you are one of Kingfisher's Lupo Proelia. And Madra, Bellicon, and Malcolm are calling each other like brother and sister. She was afraid that the Fae were going to come through and kill her previously, and now they're just in this amphitheater together. You really think she's your ally? You're wrong. She's the one who stilled the Quicksilver and closed the gates between all of the realms. Bellicon snorted. Of course she was. We've always known it was Madra. And yes, we were angry at first, but it's amazing how unimportant these little tiffs seem after centuries. Indeed, Madra said, and after all, I did only close the gate because you sent that beast through to assassinate me. There was much to forgive on my end, too. So the stakes that were set at the beginning of the book are just completely moot now. How stupid. Lucky for us, we have the opportunity to make past wrongs right, and now that our triumvirate is reunited, all 3 of us are more powerful than we've been in an age. Bellicon had known all these years. He'd known that Madra was the one who closed the gates, and he'd blamed Fisher's father. No shit. You don't say.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
And she's like, I don't understand. You guys have been at war. And he says, no, I haven't been at war. Belicon says that he's just been feeding his brother's army. I don't know if this means they're literal brothers and sisters. I don't think so. I don't know. And so they learned that Kingfisher, the reason that he was gone all this time was because the last time that he had met with them, there were tens of thousands of vampires. We found out that the better part of Malcolm's feeders had marched on Gillifrey too late. I couldn't move enough warriors through my shadow gate, so I brought Ren and some other wolves to try to save as many as we could. The horde was already inside the city. The Fae had all been chased out into the streets. And so the horde is like attacking the Fae. Belicon says, your bitch of a mother was supposed to be the greatest oracle of our time, but she was useless. As soon as she was done pushing out the brat I forced upon her, I slit the bitch's throat. I was sick of her fucking lies. She never lied to you, Fisher said. Her life could have depended on it, and she would only have been able to tell you the truth. I'm confused because I thought the Fae couldn't lie. But okay, we'll just move on. I wanted to bargain for the citizens of Gilthry who were still alive, and Belicon proposed a deal. He found a coin, one used only in Gillithry, the smallest denomination of currency the Fae had here. He said if the coin hit the ground and landed leaf side up, Malcolm would call off his horde and leave the city without hurting another living thing. But if the coin hit the ground and landed fish side up, he would take the city as his own and destroy it. I would have to leave those still alive to their fate. I tossed the coin, and Malcolm says, and I caught it. The coin never hit the ground. I never let it hit the ground so that our deal could never be completed. And then he put Fisher inside of a labyrinth for 110 years, trying to get to the middle of this labyrinth so that he could get to this coin and put the coin down on the ground. That's where Fisher was for 110 years. I hid Belicon's coin at its center, and then I created this coliseum around it and filled the stands with the perpetually burning bodies of all the creatures our poor little bleeding heart here Fisher wanted to save. All he had to do to end their suffering was find the coin and make it fall to the ground. Madra runs her fingers on Fisher's jaw, wetting her bottom lip. I don't know why she's getting sexual with him. Her nipples are peaked, it says, poking through the sheer material of her dress. And he says, I'm coming to find you, Madra. Fear the shadows, bitch. I'm made of them. One night soon I'll climb out of one and slit your fucking throat. You spayed my mate when she was a fucking child. Yeah, and he threatens her. And in Ceres's mind, she's thinking, I had no idea that it affected him this badly. When I told him about what had been done to me, he reacted strangely, but to provoke a response from him like this? Bitch, let's just rewind. First of all, he said, you spayed my mate. Like she's a fucking cat. And second of all, you didn't think that it was wrong that you were sterilized until a man explained it? How the fuck did we get here? But it's not just gonna stay weird there, because now Malcolm is revealed to be like into Fisher, so the only bisexual rep we get is the fucking villain? I've been dying to know, after 110 years in the labyrinth, what finally made you leave? And Carrion, remember he's still there, said you bored him to fucking tears and he couldn't take it anymore. I don't like you, human. Something about you smells off. That's probably the weird moss that these water sprites cleaned me with. So Fisher says, I went into that pool and got out of the labyrinth because I heard there was a pool of Quicksilver in the labyrinth, right? And that's how she did that. When she took out the sword, the Quicksilver pool inside of the fucking Coliseum, the labyrinth, opened, and so he went inside of it. Because I felt my father's sword calling to me, and I knew I'd need it for this. He became smoke, he grabs his sword from Ceres, and then he teleports over to Belicon and stabs him in the stomach. This is for me, but mostly it's for my parents. Madra screams, all hell breaks loose. They all run into the fucking labyrinth, which is a terrible fucking idea. They get in a fight with Heron, that same soldier. Shouldn't you have been in the ground a long time ago? Madra gifted me with eternity so that you could serve her. Anyway, his neck gets snapped. Inside the labyrinth, there's a monster that cannot see but can sense them if they move. It's like half person, half spider creature, sort of. It's called Morthil. It's a demon. It'll stun you with its stinger and eat you alive if it catches you slowly over a period of days. So they need Ceres to call out to the Quicksilver that's in the middle of the labyrinth, the pool that he went through when he found her, get them to the middle of the labyrinth. They're asking him, how the fuck did you survive in here? And Malcolm, still controlling the labyrinth, is like, he didn't eat while he was in here, did you, my love? I don't know why Malcolm is like obsessed with this dude, but I just don't understand why we had to make Malcolm the only bisexual. At least it feels that way. She misspelled the word arrogant. She left off the T, so that's interesting. They end up in a room full of decoy coins. The original coin had traces of Quicksilver in it. Then, all of this is just, it's too much at once. Malcolm shows up and Carrion baits him into biting him, and Carrion's being drained of life before their eyes. And then they realize that something is terribly wrong with Malcolm. My name's Carrion Swift, but there was a time when I was known as Carrion Dianthus, firstborn son to Rurik and Amelia Dianthus. Malcolm began to shake. A violent convulsion racked through him, and a thick stream of blood jetted from his mouth. It spattered over the coins at his feet. You tricked me! You tricked me into drinking Dianthus blood! Holy fucking gods! So basically, like, Carrion is the heir to a certain line that will kill Malcolm if he drinks from it. She calls out to the Quicksilver coin inside the coin that they need to find. And they're like, okay, we will allow you to use us for a favor and for a restoration of balance. And she says, okay, I will do you a small favor. Turns out that the coin, she has to backtrack because it's inside the half man, half spider monster. She lifts her hand to go get it, and she realizes that now she's officially accepted the mating bond because she's covered in the tattoos again. That was too big and too wild to comprehend right now. I grimaced as I plucked the coin from the back of its throat and closed my hand around it. You better give me that coin, girl, a rough voice said. It was Malcolm. Oh, he's still alive. Okay, they get in a fight. I've spent a lot of time with Fisher over the years. He's quite something to look at, so you'll believe me when I tell you that I noticed his new marks immediately, but I didn't need to see ink on skin to know you were his, did I? I scented you on him the second you showed up here, demanding I let his sister go. I scented your body on him.
Ew, no, David.
But the scent of your blood was much stronger. I couldn't believe it, that he'd fed from you. He wore that silver plate at his throat every day he was trapped here in this labyrinth, a gift from his mother, I believe. Pure silver imbued with some particularly nasty magic. I couldn't have torn it off him if I tried. I promised to let Fisher go if he only gave me a taste of his blood. I promised to wipe Gillithry from his memory so he'd forget about this place and what had happened here if he only fed from me just once. I wanted to know the bliss that would come at the points of his teeth, but he denied me. He chose to stay and suffer. And then you, a pathetic, weak human, his mate, it's offensive. Sorry, I said. He's just not into the undead. Oh my god, it's so cringe. He stabs her in the abdomen. They say abdomen wounds are the worst way to go. I think I'll leave you just like this. You'll last long enough for him to find you that way. I love our Kingfisher the most when his heart is breaking. Our Kingfisher? This sick piece of shit couldn't claim any part of my mate. Fisher was mine. I'm going to kill you, I groaned. It'll be the last thing I do, but it'll be worth it. And then she drops the coin to the ground. And then she cuts off his head and says, only the gods are eternal. Bellicon's still alive, but Lorith is dealing with him and Carrion, who is a fae, by the way. Then Taladeus, who previously was like mocking Fisher and shit, and is one of the sons, also lords of Malcolm, is suddenly a good guy I don't understand. She's dying. Fisher runs up. He's like, I'll give her a part of my soul. You can't. You already gave too much to Lorith. You'll decline immediately if you try to. I don't give a shit. And she's like, you can't do that. You swore you'd never take away my free will again. That's what you'd be doing if you kill me and die in the process. I don't want to take your soul. Taladeus is like, there's another way and you know it. And so Taladeus bites her so that she can live. And they don't know whether or not this is going to turn her into a vampire. The Quicksilver, while she is passed out, or whatever the fuck is happening to her, she's unconscious for sure, is talking to her and says, we call in our favor, Sarahsphane. Will you honor your word and grant us our favor? We require an audience with you. When she comes to, still not in her normal human experience body, she hears two like female voices talking, and it's these two gods that I think are the same gods that her sons in her world are named after. And they ask her, tell us what it's like, sex with Fisher. You know what? I'm still stuck on you spayed my mate, so I'm just not even gonna go there. We wanted to try him out for ourselves, but our father forbade it. He deems no living creature from any realm worthy of our touch. We've been waiting an eon for him to gift us with our own playmate, but thus far, no other of our kind has braved the journey to visit our Corcoran. These are the gods that left. Which of us do you worship more fervently, Baal or Millith? Mithin, sorry. Was this really happening? They were gods? How could anyone love Baal more than Mithin or treasure Mithin more than Baal? You're worshipped equally by all. So she goes and talks to their father, which is Zareth, the god of chaos. And you are Sarah, sister to Hayden, daughter to no one, and mate to my champion. I spent a great deal of time watching the threads of the universe, waiting for one such as you, an alchemist at last, to reset the ballast and clear the way for the what is to come. Oh my god, I'm losing it. Oh, I've been filming for hours. You aren't the only alchemist in the universe. There are millions of you out there, even in your realm, even in the city you once called your home. There are hundreds of elemental magic wielders who can command the Quicksilver, but when I consulted the Fates long ago, the Fates, by the way, is not capitalized here. It was previously. I was very intrigued with when I saw you, Sarahsphane, not just you, Kingfisher too. I saw an axis in the flow of things, a burning dot in the tapestry of all that would come to be. When I focused, I saw the strength of the bond that connected the two of you together. I admit I attempted to sway the Fates. not capital F again. What do you mean sway the fates, not capital F again? You were supposed to have born Fae in the same realm as your kingfisher, so I separated you. Hundreds of years before you were born, I shifted around the events of your birth, moved the pieces on the board, and placed you far away in a realm that never should have come into contact with him, but I watched the boughs of the universe grow against their nature and aligned in such a way that you would still meet. I foresaw that no matter how the boughs and branches of this tree were manipulated, you and he would always collide. There was nothing I could do to stop it. Why would you want to keep us apart? Every possible future where the two of you are together ends with the vast majority of the, fate dying. None of us can foresee every other way. You're saying that Fisher and I are responsible for the end of the entire universe? Not you personally, but the moment where you meet, along with the moment where you become mates, is a spark, the flame in the dark that draws the moth. So it was upon me to try and stop that spark from taking place, but as you've already learned, the fates themselves would not be guided down that path. Fisher doesn't know any of this. You and Fisher fought at each other's side, and you were God-bound. The oaths mark you as my ward, the God-bound on her wrist. They protect both you and Fisher from the unwanted attention of my brothers and my sister, the other gods. Protection from them, she asks. They would rather kill Fisher than roll the dice on what comes next. They would prefer to weather the storm on the horizon and replant our tree. Once the slate has been wiped clean, I don't want that to happen. It would break my daughter's hearts. For them, I'm willing to take a chance. If you truly accept Fisher as your mate, then you must agree for the thread of your life to be severed from the tapestry of the universe. None of us gods will affect your future. We won't be able to see you at all, nor will my brothers and my sister be able to interfere with the timelines or events that affect you either. You'll be on your own. This is how you save your mate. Fuck the fates. They don't get to decide shit for me. I decide what my future is going to be. And he says, I'm going to transform you into something that has never been seen before. The universe cannot focus on that which it does not recognize. But how? I'm not just the god of chaos, alchemist. I'm also the god of change. I will it, and it is done. Best of luck to you, Saris. Give Kingfisher my best. And then he shoves her into the Quicksilver, and she goes home. Her body has undergone tremendous changes. She now has pointy ears. She's a fae after all. As far as we can tell, you're half vampire, half fae. Something none of us could have ever seen before. As of now, we're not sure which traits you've adopted from the fae and which you've adopted from vampires. All our healers are sure is that you're no longer human. No longer human. Not fully vampire, not fully fae. Taladeus explains, yeah, I bit you to save your life. I suppressed the memories, and she's like, remove it. I want to know what happened to me. She'd bitten him? Wait, he bit her? Well, she definitely bit him. I guess they bit each other. Then she realizes that Carrion Swift is also a fae now. Everybody gets turned into a fae because just like the end of A Court of Mist and Fury, everybody has to be a fae for this story to continue. You didn't tell me that you were heir to a fucking fae throne. Well, it's hardly something you just tell people, Saris. Anyway, my grandmother made me promise not to. Except she wasn't your grandmother, was she? Fisher's father took you to Zelvarn when you were little to save you from Belicon. He glamored your ears and your canines so you wouldn't stand out. He brought a bag of books along with you so you could learn about your heritage and return when the time was right. And some woman saved you? And it was some slave in Madra's palace. And then one night she picks him up out of the Quicksilver, flees the palace, escapes, went into the third, worked as a seamstress, and raised him like he was her son. That would have been a better story, to be honest. We're just doing too much in this book, and not a single part of it is good. You slept with me. You're welcome. Carrion, what? You've been fucking Fisher for the past God knows how long. Yes, but that was when I decided to sleep with him. He was my mate. All right, I'm sorry I didn't disclose to you that I was a magic-wielding political asylum seeker posing as a human when I slept with you. Does that make you feel better? No, I hate all of this. Ask me how I survived Malcolm's all-powerful venom. I can tell you're just dying to know. Lorith said that your father's blood was used to create the blood curse that allowed Malcolm to become a vampire, and that a vampire can't drink from the living members of the bloodline that created them, nor can they enthrall them. He said that drinking from you should have killed Malcolm instantly because he'd lived so long, he was too powerful. Sure, okay, fine. Just doing too much. Kingfisher shows up. He has less Quicksilver in his eye. Taylena found a way to dampen the Quicksilver's effects. I've been seeing her for months trying to get it under control, but her sessions were growing less and less effective. And then this witch that I forgot was even in this book because she was there for all of 2 seconds, decided to team up with Taylena, the healer. Those two make a pretty good team. Well, why can't we make them gay? Damn it. Taylena helped to quiet the Quicksilver, and the witch has been teasing it out of me. I'll have to have a million sessions. It'll take a long time, but it should work. But the Quicksilver said that it's impossible. And then she realizes that they are inside, not their area of the world, but the vampire area of the world. And he's like, yeah, so you're going to have to explain to the people that you don't want to be the ruler here. The vampire court has only ever had one king. Malcolm never aimed at an heir. He planned on living forever. I'm not even a full vampire. I'm half fae. I can't. Tell them that, as far as Vampire Court is concerned, you're to be coronated in 2 days' time, and you'll officially become the new Queen of Sanisroth. The end. What are we doing? I'm sorry. I have a real hard time moving past "you spayed my mate." You spayed my mate. You spayed my mate. What was the fucking point of so much of that? What was the point of the Madra shit entirely? They were just like, actually, we teamed back up. So all it took was a simple conversation that you guys could have had at any time. Stakes where? This is so stupid. The amount of typos in this is ridiculous. This is what, like 650 fucking pages for what reason? My God. If I had spent money on this, I would be livid. This is not good. This is not a good book. There's nothing good about it. Anything good is so washed away by everything that's so poorly done, under-edited, no real substantial overarching plot. It's just, let's throw everything but the kitchen sink. I have said this before, but there was one time when I was about 11 years old and I wanted to make my mom a birthday cake, and I just decided to throw every sweet thing that we had inside of this funfetti birthday cake mix and throw it into a fucking bundt pan. I threw chunky peanut butter in there. I threw sprinkles in there. I threw God knows what else in there. And that shit came out and it was terrible. You don't just throw as much as possible in. Just because it's all good stuff on its own does not mean that it's going to be good when you all bake it into one fucking cake. It's not good. It's not good. And it's not just that we also left out ingredients, like world building, like normal answering of questions. What an absolute waste of my time. But I got to sit here and yell about it with you. Tell me your favorite part. Yay! You spayed my mate. I really will never get over that. I will never get over the fact that the big bad vampire guy was seemingly bisexual. That was the only queer rep that we got in here. I assume he's bisexual. That's certainly what it sounded like it was hinting at, that he was in love with Kingfisher. The fact that the guy's name is Kingfisher alone is so stupid. Sarris doesn't ask basic questions. The narrative never answers any basic questions. Every woman in here is like mean, except for Everlane, who disappears. All of this is so bad. It's so bad. And also justice for the fox, because again, you can't be Adventure Fox. All you guys do is disappoint me. Okay, that was Quicksilver by Callie Hart. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, leave, I don't know, a yellow heart, because we'll call it gold, I guess. I don't know. God, I'm brain dead after this. I have been doing this all day. This video is probably my longest yet. That's great. That's so great. That's what happens when we have 650 pages and no fucking plot. Okay, thanks so much for watching. Leave your comments and questions down below. See you next time. Bye! Before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Ashley H, Astra, Brittany Bobitney, Call Me Kodiak, Cami, Choco's traumatized by that dang book, Chris the Horror Therapist, DJ Rocktopus, EK Casey, Ellie, Emerald Dodge, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric, Hey Mom, I'm Famous, Jess, John E, K, Kaleno K, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Lily B, Max B, Mixer Boneless, Alice, Panoramic Demon, Peggy Lou, Rain, Reese, Ree, SJ, Samar, Scarlet, Shiny, SMK, Spoopy, Steph, T Delegati, 2 Orbit, Umami Mommy, Urchin Audrey, White Raven 13, Zorvictia, Chai Guy. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend. And I have to say thank you for being a friend to my potato starch Marxist patrons. Wow, that's a mouthful. And those are AB Daniels Anaki, Alejandra, Ali Oxenfree, Alistair, Althea, Amanda D, Andy, Angelica, Armadildo. That's a good one. Artie the Ninth, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck, Blake Lemon Pants, Blythe Lavender, Bookish Brainrot, Bookish by Jenna, Bree Caitlin, Kate B, Caitlin P, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Carly, Casper, Kate, Catherine, Kathy, Claire Online, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic, Darius, Danielle M, Darren, Desiree Michelle, Dilf Enthusiast, Dorian, Dorothea, Drive-By Thinker, Ebby, Emily A, Emma, Other Emma, Ezra Moon, Fiona McDonald, Forever a Boat, Francis Gadarn, Galaxy Bot, Halia Artisan, Hannah Bunny, Hannah C, Harpy Kuro, JM Tennant, Jays on Olympus, Jelly V, Jen Michelle, Genderqueer, Jenny G, Jessa Sue, Jill, Jojo Bookish, Juicy Wizard, Kat, Catherine, Katie L, Katrina, Kaylee, Kayala, Kendra, KMTB, Laughing Cat Dog, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Library of Scars, Lindsay M, Lisa B, Lisa L, LP, Luciri, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Maddie, Madison, Man-Eating Plant, Marcella, Marquita, Megan, Malara, May, Mima Who, Molly, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nyan Binary, Paige P, Paul, Penelope, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Plague Carrier, Pandemonium, Queen Cereal, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca, Rebecca R, Ronnie, Rosie Thorns, Rowan, Secoria, Saintbringer, Saki Alume, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Shamed, Shannon, Sean, Sophie, Talia, That Nerdy Mystic, Tiana, Too Thick to Work Today, Trash Can Teddy, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, Unicorn Jenny, Wobbs. If you don't tell me how to say that, I'm gonna cry. And Writer A, thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend.